Chapter 510. Cough, cough, Tang Guosheng coughed a few times. With a wry smile on his old face, he said, "Grandson, can we discuss something? I gave you 50 billion yuan in hopes that you can use it to develop the Tang family and add bricks and tiles to our family's current strength. About that, spending money lavishly is not good." Tan Xiu stared blankly for a moment before he looked at Tang Guosheng with a strange expression and said, "Grandpa, are you sure I'm spending money lavishly?" "Isn't it?" asked Tang Guosheng. Tan Xiu spread out his hands and said, "Since you think I'm spending money lavishly, then listen to me first. After the auction, I had a private talk with the Situ family's patriarch, Situ Boyong, for a long time and also made a deal. No, it should be 3 deals. Take a look at the text messages on my mobile phone. 2 sums of money have just arrived, 5 billion yuan each, for a total of 5 billion yuan. The 1 billion yuan that the Situ family promised me has yet to arrive." Tang Yinda quickly grabbed the phone and read the few short messages on it. His mouth was wide open and his eyes were filled with disbelief. Although he knew that his son was capable, he never thought that his precious son could get such a huge sum of money in just one night. 5 billion yuan plus 1 billion yuan was a total of 1 billion yuan. What kind of deal did he make with others? With a surprised expression, Tang Guosheng grabbed the mobile phone and glanced at it. Despite his extraordinary status, he still couldn't help but jump a few times. After being silent for half a minute, he returned the mobile phone to Tan Xiu and asked, "Xiu, I don't believe that a pie falling from the sky will fall on your head. Tell me, what kind of deal did you make with them?" "They are all people from the occult sect, and I happen to have the ability to make talismans," said Tan Xiu. "Therefore, they bought a total of 200 talismans from me." Upon hearing this, Tang Guosheng's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He raised his arm in disbelief and pointed at Tan Xiu, saying with a trembling voice, You can actually make talismans? How is this possible? In this day and age, how could there be someone who knows the method of crafting talismans?" Tan Xiu smiled faintly and said, "Grandpa, you don't need to make such a fuss. Isn't it just making talismans? I know many other things. However, in order to avoid trouble, I had to conceal my strength and bide my time." "That's right, you can say that." Tang Guosheng and Tang Yinda looked at each other. Both father and son were rendered speechless by Tan Xiu's words. "What do you mean by a faint pretentious style?" This was it. Tan Xiu patted his forehead. He seemed to recall something and smilingly said, "That's right. I also went to the Situ clan's treasury and got some good things. One of them was in the car in the front yard." "Grandpa, do you want it? Golden dragon head?" "Since it's something given by my grandson, I naturally have no reason to refuse it," said Tang Guosheng with a faint smile. "Come on, I need to go out and take a breather. Let's go to the car in the front yard and see what kind of golden dragon head it is." Upon hearing it, Tang Yinda smiled and said, "I also need to take a breather, Dad. This brat, it's like I'm riding a roller coaster. It's too stimulating." Quickly, the 3 generations came to the front yard. Tang Guosheng, who was in a good mood, came to the Land Rover SUV. He watched as Tan Xiu opened the door. He stretched himself comfortably and didn't rush to look inside the car. Instead, he raised his head, took 2 deep breaths, and then said with a smile, "The weather tonight is good. I've lived in the imperial capital for so many years, but it's rare to see a sky full of stars at night." "Indeed." Tang Yinda chuckled. Tang Yinda said with a smile, "The imperial capital will soon be uninhabitable if it goes on like this. Unless humans can mutate in this harsh environment." "Ha ha ha," Tang Guosheng burst into laughter. However, when he lowered his head and glanced at the open car door, his laughter came to an abrupt stop and the wrinkles on his face froze in an instant. This situation only lasted for a few seconds. Tang Guosheng suddenly strode forward and quickly got into the car, moving closer to the golden dragon's head. "What a good thing. This exclamation didn't come from Tang Guosheng, but from Tang Yunda. He held the car door and looked at the golden dragon's head next to the old man, full of praise. It's not a good thing, Tan Xiu said with a smile, but aside from the other two things in the Situ family's treasury, only this golden dragon's head can barely be regarded as a relatively cool thing, so I brought it back. How about it, Grandpa? This dragon's head is cast with absolute pure gold. If you like it, I'll leave it for you as a decoration. Tang Guosheng turned his head with difficulty. Although it was night time, there were lights in the courtyard, and there was also a faint light in the car. Hence, not only could Tang Xiu clearly see the complicated expression on his face, even Tang Yunda could clearly see it. Tang Guosheng looked at Tan Xiu. His lips squirmed a few times before he spoke with a somewhat hoarse voice. Xiu, do you know that I used to be in charge of managing the state's secret vault in our country? I don't know. Tan Xiu shook his head. When I was managing the documents in the state's secret vault, I once went through all the confidential files inside, said Tang Guosheng. One of them was about this golden dragon's head. The information was passed down from the Tang dynasty, and it was well protected. This golden dragon's head was recorded in one of the lost national treasures of our State Cultural Relics Bureau. I didn't expect that this golden dragon's head had been secretly collected by the Situ family. The ancestors of the Situ family paid a great price to get it, said Tan Xiu with a faint smile. Since it's been in their possession for hundreds of years, it's their private property. Now that it's in my hands, it's my private property. Grandpa, this thing is for you. Clutching his chest, Tang Guosheng shook his head with a forced smile and sighed. I originally came out of the house to take a breath of fresh air and soothe my mood. But I didn't expect that not only did my mood not calm down, it even stimulated me more intensely. I say, Xiu, your ability is really amazing. This golden dragon's head is yours since you got it. I can't take it, nor do I dare to take it. Why do you say that? Tan Xiu was confused. The golden dragon's head is indeed a good thing, but it's just a dead object for our Tang family. Tang Guosheng sighed. If its existence is spread out, not only will it bring no benefits to our family, it will also bring great harm to us. Those who are hiding in the dark and eyeing our Tang family covetously will use this as an excuse to make our family fall into the teeth of public opinion. Tan Xiu was silent for a moment before he slowly nodded and said, if that's the case, then I'll take it away. Didn't I buy an island in the Pacific Ocean? I'll quietly bring this golden dragon's head to Nine Dragons Island after it's built there. That's a good idea. Tang Guosheng nodded without hesitation. But you must hide it well before you take it out. Don't let others find it. Tan Xiu smiled and said, I may not have the ability if it's something else. But when it comes to hiding things, I'm afraid no one in the world can compare to me. Don't worry. The golden dragon's head will never be discovered by others, and not even half a word will be spread out. All right. Tang Guosheng heavily nodded. After getting off the car, he sighed and said, you just said that you spent 3.1 billion in an auction. I'm a bit regretful about it. I was wondering if it was too rash to give you 50 billion. But who would have thought that not only did you take the opportunity to earn 3.1 billion back, but you even earned 5 billion more. Most importantly, you even got a treasure like the golden dragon's head. It's really amazing. Tan Xiu chuckled and said, it's just a coincidence that it's something those people from the occult sect lack the most. Tang Guosheng let out a faint smile. His expression suddenly moved as if he recalled something and quickly asked, Xiu, you just said that you got a total of 3 things from the Situ family's vault. Aside from this golden dragon's head, what are the other 2 things? Old objects. An ancient bronze lamp and a guanine vase, answered Tan Xiu with a smile. Tang Guosheng nodded and said, I'm not familiar with antiques, but I also know that the real good things are very expensive. Let me count it. You got a total of 5 good things today, so you still have 5 billion. TSK, you're worthy to be my grandson. You're really amazing. Grandpa, I'm afraid I won't be able to stay here anymore if you praise me again, said Tan Xiu. Alright. I won't praise you anymore. Tang Guoshen waved his hand and smilingly said. Tang Yunda had been standing at the side, listening to the conversation between grandfather and grandson. The sense of satisfaction inside his heart was particularly strong. It was much more satisfying than when he had a meteoric rise in the army and obtained great military merits again and again. He felt that the most correct thing he had done in his life was to find a good wife and have a good son. And now, his body was getting better and better, and he had almost recovered to the level of a normal person. He believed that as long as he persevered in his exercise and slowly recuperated his body, it was even possible for him to recover to his peak state in the past. Xiu, I know your mother's thoughts. She thinks that studying is the only way out. Her wish all these years is that you can enter a good university and get a good diploma in the future. If you want to stay at Shanghai University to study, then continue to study. However, you still have to do things when it's time to do them. Take advantage of your youth and learn while working, so that you can achieve better results in the future. Tang Yunda patted Tan Xiu's shoulder and smilingly said. Don't worry. Tan Xiu said with a smile. I know what I'm doing. Tang Yunda smiled and said, it's good that you know what you're doing. Also, I heard that you have a close relationship with a lot of girls. If you find one you like, it's also good for you to fall in love. Your mother is still very young, so she can help you take care of your child. Cough, it's a new month. Asking for a guaranteed monthly ticket. Chapter 5:11. The next morning, when the first ray of sunlight rose from the east, Tan Xiu had already stepped out of the Tang family's ancestral residence. Outside the courtyard, Ouyang Lulu, dressed in a black leather coat, leaned on the front of a Hummer. She looked at Tan Xiu with a faint smile as he came out of the courtyard. If you don't come out, I'm afraid I'll have to go inside and pull you out. There's only 1.5 hours left for the flight route application. With the traffic jam in the imperial capital, I estimate that it'll be very difficult for us to get to the airport within 1.5 hours, said Ouyang Lulu with a smile. Tan Xiu's brows pricked as he turned to look at the soldier standing guard at the gate and asked, how long will it take to get to the airport from here if we take the subway? 1.5 hours, answered the soldier. Tan Xiu slightly furrowed his brows as he turned to look at Ouyang Lulu and asked, say it. How can we get to the airport ahead of time? Are you begging me? Ouyang Lulu said with a charming smile. Tan Xiu rolled his eyes at her and snappily said, don't waste my time. I'm really in a hurry to get back to Shanghai. I don't have any classes this morning, but I have classes in the afternoon. If I can get there earlier, I'll have to report to school. A curved arc outlined on the corner of Ouyang Lulu's mouth. With a proud expression, she took out a bunch of keys and walked to the left side. Come with me. I'll have to trouble your Tang family to send this Hummer back to the Situ family. Tan Xiu stared blankly for a moment. He then greeted the two soldiers standing guard and followed behind Ouyang Lulu, walking toward the alley entrance. When the two of them came to the street outside, they saw a very handsome Harley motorcycle. How did you get it? Tan Xiu stared blankly at Ouyang Lulu as she mounted the Harley and murmured. Ouyang Lulu giggled and said, I asked the Situ family to drive that Hummer here. As for this Harley motorcycle, it was me who rode it. How about it? I'm prepared for both sides. Not bad, right? Tan Xiu looked at Ouyang Lulu with a strange expression and snappily said, it turns out that this is all your plan. I know it's rush hour and there will definitely be traffic jams on the road, so I prepared this motorcycle. Ouyang Lulu giggled and said, I just want to have intimate contact with you. Don't those guys ride motorcycles and brake from time to time to take advantage of girls in order to chase after them? Pfft, Tang Xiu couldn't help but be amused by her remark. Ouyang Lulu said with a smile, don't stare blankly, hurry up and come up. Otherwise, even if we're not afraid of traffic, we won't make it in time if we delay any longer. All right. Tan Xiu, who was sitting behind Ouyang Lulu, hesitated for a moment before putting his hands on her shoulders. Ouyang Lulu rolled her eyes and reached out to grab Tan Xiu's hands, letting him hug her waist. Then, she picked up the helmet on the handlebar and put it on for Tan Xiu. Only then did he put it on himself, activated it, and sped off into the distance. Good elasticity. Tan Xiu's hands hugged Ouyang Lulu's waist. He could still feel the heat coming from her even though she was wearing a leather coat, as well as the good elasticity. After returning to Earth, although he and Kang Xia had skin contact, Kang Xia's waist was not as elastic as Ouyang Lulu's. "Darling, is it cool or not?" Ouyang Lulu slightly tilted her head and shouted while riding the bike. Tan Xiu was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. "Cool my ass. Just drive properly and don't have any crooked ideas." Ha ha ha. At 10:30 in the morning, the plane landed at the Shanghai airport. Tan Xiu and Ouyang Lulu got off the plane. Under Ouyang Lulu's strong request, Tan Xiu had no choice but to take her to Shanghai University. Under Ouyang Lulu's persistent pestering, he even agreed to have lunch together with her. When the taxi stopped at the entrance of Shanghai University, Tan Xiu threw the key to Blue Star Villa complex to Ouyang Lulu and then rushed to the campus alone. When he arrived at the classroom, he found that there were not many people in the classroom. There were only a dozen people gathered in twos and threes, talking about some interesting things that happened during the holidays. "Oh, Big Bro Tang is finally here." Hu Qingsong, who had a thick northeastern accent, shouted loudly when he saw Tan Xiu coming in from the door. Immediately, more than a dozen students in the classroom looked at Tan Xiu with strange expressions on their faces. It was obvious that there was a story behind it. Tan Xiu smiled and greeted everyone. He then came to sit next to Hu Qingsong and curiously asked, "Why do I feel like everyone's looking at me with a strange expression? What's going on?" Hu Qingsong grinned and said, "Hee, we've officially elected a class leader this morning. Your position as the class monitor has been removed, and I'm now the new class monitor. Also, Teacher Han has personally named you as a negative example. She hopes that everyone won't learn from you." Tan Xiu raised his brows and asked, "What about me?" Hu Qingsong counted with his fingers and said, "All right, I'll tell you the details. First, you skipped class. Am I right? Second, you're irresponsible. You're the acting class monitor, yet you didn't fulfill your duty as a monitor. Am I right? Third, you didn't abide by the class discipline and left the class without permission, right? Fourth." Stop. Tan Xiu was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh as he looked at Hu Qingsong. A small resentment toward Han Qingwu arose inside his heart. This was the situation after he went to Han Qingwu's class in high school. Only mentioning it now was clearly using public office to avenge a personal grudge. However, thinking about it, Hu Qingsong was right. These problems did exist. He really didn't deserve to be a student since he skipped class a lot. Han Qingwu. Tan Xiu silently repeated this name more than 10 times in his heart. Finally, he helplessly decided that he would try not to give Han Qingwu a hard time in the future. There was a saying that people had to lower their heads when they were under the eaves. If he wanted to get along well in Shanghai University, he had to compromise with her without delaying his serious business. The county magistrate is not as good as the person in charge. It's so fucking reasonable. Tan Xiu groaned weakly in his heart. Then, he patted Hu Qingsong's shoulder hard and asked, "Where are you Kai and the others? Why are you the only one left in the classroom?" Hu Qingsong curled his lips and said snappily, "Where else can they go? They ran to pick up girls. Since they moved their target away from Mu Weining, they've all set their eyes on other girls. Sooner or later, those studs will die on women's bellies." Tan Xiu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He said, "Why do I smell a sour smell when I listen to you? Haven't you found your target yet?" "Who said I haven't found my target yet?" Hu Qingsong angrily said. His words came to an abrupt halt. His angry expression also froze in an instant. Tan Xiu burst into laughter. He then stood up and said, let's go since there's nothing to do this morning. Since they've gone on a date, then we'll depend on each other. Anyways, I'll treat you to lunch. Hu Qingsong's eyes lit up. He grinned and stood up, saying, that's what I said. The heavens and the earth are good, but nothing is better than eldest bro Tang. How about I marry you, eldest bro Tang? Don't worry, I won't wear your gold or wear your silver. I'll let you pamper me as long as you give me food every day. Fuck off. Tan Xiu cursed with a smile. As the duo left the classroom and walked toward the campus gate, a confused look appeared on Hu Qingsong's face as he said, eldest bro Tang, you don't have to treat me to lunch, do you? Do you want to go out and have a big meal? You don't want to have a big meal with me? Tan Xiu said with a smile. There will be someone else having lunch with us apart from the two of us. Who is it? Hu Qingsong was confused. A friend of mine, Tan Xiu said with a smile. Is it a man or a woman? Hu Qingsong's spirit shook. It's a woman. Tan Xiu said with a smile. Hu Qingsong's eyes lit up and he asked again, how does she look like? She's as beautiful as a flower, enchanting and charming, Tan Xiu said with a smile again. Hee, I know you're the best to your brother, eldest bro Tang. Hu Qingsong grinned and said, the kind of woman you mentioned is my favorite type. Let's make a deal first. I'll treat you to a big meal after I successfully pursue her. Tang Xiu rolled his eyes and said, I'll treat you to a big meal if you can catch up with her. Hu Qingsong stared blankly for a moment. The smile on his face immediately disappeared as he helplessly said, is it fun to fool me, eldest bro Tang? I knew it. That woman's appearance must be ugly, else why would she push such a great beauty to me? Forget it, just keep it for your own use. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing as he shook his head. He patted his shoulder and then walked towards the Blue Star Villa complex. Since it was still early, they didn't take a car and strolled back to the villa. After Tan Xiu rang the doorbell, the courtyard door automatically opened and Ouyang Lulu's enchanting figure appeared at the entrance of the villa's hall. Eldest bro Tang, isn't this your home? Why did you ring the doorbell? After Hu Qingsong followed Tan Xiu into the courtyard, his eyes fell on Ouyang Lulu. When he saw Ouyang Lulu's appearance, his mouth instantly gaped and his eyeballs nearly popped out. What's wrong? Tan Xiu said with a smile. A great beauty of this level really can't enter your eyes? Hu Qingsong desperately gulped down his saliva. He shook his head with a blank expression and murmured, I can. I absolutely can. If such a beauty can marry me, I'm willing to shorten my life by 30 years. Ha ha ha, this time, it was Tan Xiu's turn to laugh heartily. Hu Qingsong was awakened by Tan Xiu's laughter. An awkward look appeared on his face and he didn't dare to look at Ouyang Lulu again. Lulu, he's Hu Qingsong, my classmate, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Ouyang Lulu had already heard Hu Qingsong's words. A charming smile outlined on the corner of her mouth as she extended her hand and said, hello, I'm Ouyang Lulu. Welcome to my home. As for me, I'm afraid I can't marry you because I'm already taken, the one next to you. But I can help you introduce a girlfriend, but the premise is, you need to be as capable as my man. The flower is taken. My man. Hu Qingsong stared blankly and turned to look at Tan Xiu with an incredulous expression. I'll update in silence and not say anything _. I'll never say that I want the guaranteed monthly votes from my brothers and sisters. Chapter 5:12. Hu Qingsong had never seen Ouyang Lulu, but he heard from Yu Kai that he once saw a peerless beauty in Tan Xiu's house. Originally, they all thought that Yu Kai was talking nonsense. But at this time, Hu Qingsong believed it. The girl's appearance and figure were definitely not worse than the first campus belle of Shanghai University, Mu Weining, nor was she worse than the superstar Zhang Xinya. Even if he were to choose between Mu Weining, Zhang Xinya, and these three women, he would definitely choose this one. It was because this girl gave him a cool and hot feeling, which was what he liked the most. Big bro Tang, is she also your woman? Asked Hu Qingsong with a dull expression. Before Tan Xiao could reply, Ouyang Lulu's brows pricked up and asked, what did you just say? Also? Who else is Tan Xiao's woman besides me? Huh? Hu Qingsong was dumbfounded. He never expected that his slip of the tongue would cause the girl in front of him to have such a different emotion. It seemed like he had pushed Tan Xiao into a pit of fire, didn't he? Tan Xiao shook his head with a smile. He grabbed Ouyang Lulu's wrist and strode toward the villa, saying, Lulu, don't listen to Hu Qingsong's nonsense. I'm a pure and honest person, and I won't fall in love before I graduate from college. I have no other woman. Hu Qingsong immediately felt relieved after hearing it. He quickly caught up and nodded repeatedly, that's right. Big bro Tang absolutely has no other woman. Although there are other women pursuing him, who is Big bro Tang? He's the kind of person who walks among thousands of flowers, leaving no one behind. Big bro Tang, am I right? Right my ass. Ouyang Lulu snappily said, I'm the one you're talking about. Ugh, Hu Qingsong was speechless. Tan Xiao was also speechless. He shook his head and waved his hand, saying, wait for me, you two. I need to go upstairs and change my clothes, then we'll go out to eat. 20 minutes later. Tan Xiao, Hu Qingsong, and Ouyang Lulu left the villa complex and drove to the Everlasting Feast Hall. Just as the trio stepped through the Everlasting Feast Hall's entrance, Tan Xiao saw Han Qinggu chatting with Qi Nan in front of the counter. Tan Xiao, your homeroom teacher. Ouyang Lulu gently touched Tan Xiao's arm and whispered. Tan Xiao nodded silently. He noticed that Han Qinggu and Qi Nan were looking at him, and the two women were walking towards him. He immediately frowned. However, when he thought of Han Qinggu's status in Shanghai University, he smiled bitterly in his heart. The problem that he had thought about before was that if he continued to treat Han Qinggu with that unapproachable attitude, it would bring him a lot of trouble if he continued to stay in Shanghai University. It might even be a problem for him to apply for leave in the future. Teacher Han, what a coincidence. Hu Qingsong was the first to speak with a smile. With a smile on her face, Han Qinggu nodded to Hu Qingsong. Her eyes then fell on Tan Xiao, and then looked at Ouyang Lulu. Then, she said, Tan Xiao, why didn't you report to campus on time this morning? I just came from the imperial capital and was delayed by something, said Tan Xiao. Han Qinggu glared at him, turned to Qi Nan and said, Manager Qi, I still have something to do, so I'll take my leave first. Remember to tell your big boss not to skip classes in the future. All right. Qi Nan nodded while suppressing her smile. Tan Xiao looked at Han Qinggu's back as she carried her bag and left. He shook his head helplessly. When his eyes shifted to Qi Nan, he asked, why did she come here? She came here for lunch, boss. Qi Nan said with a smile, our Everlasting Feast Hall is open for business, so I can't just shut her out, can I? Ugh, Tan Xiao was speechless. Manager Qi, Ouyang Lulu hummed and said, you must shut the door to those women who conspire against your boss later. Then, should I also shut the door to Miss Ouyang? Qi Nan asked with a smile. Huh? Ouyang Lulu stared blankly for a moment before she immediately waved her hand and said, I conspire against him openly, but Han Qinggu conspires against him in the dark. It's not the same. I'm going to be the Everlasting Feast Hall's lady boss in the future. She can't be compared with me. Pfft, Qi Nan couldn't help but laugh. She glanced at Tan Xiao and quickly said, Boss, you came here for lunch, right? I'll arrange it right away. Tang Xiao sighed helplessly. Ouyang Lulu didn't shy away from him at all and even shamelessly pursued him. He really had no way to deal with it. He had told her many times, but none of it worked. Hence, he didn't bother to waste his saliva. At the side, Hu Qingsong was dumbfounded as he looked at Tan Xiao and Qi Nan. His mouth was open so wide that a big goose egg could be stuffed inside. The look of disbelief on his face vividly expressed the shock in his heart. What are you staring blankly for? Get inside. Tan Xiu walked a few steps forward and called out to Hu Qingsong, who was frozen in place. Hu Qingsong finally shut his mouth. But after he caught up, he stammered and asked, Big Bro Tang, what did Manager Qi just say? Boss? You're the Everlasting Feast Hall's boss. Paper can't wrap fire. Tan Xiu was deeply aware of this truth. Now that Hu Qingsong knew about it, he didn't feel like hiding it anymore. He nodded and said, Yes, I'm the Everlasting Feast Hall's boss. The reason why I didn't tell you before was because I didn't want you to think too much. Now that you know about it, don't sell me out. Don't tell anyone about it. Hu Qingsong gulped down his saliva and nodded with a blank expression. At this moment, he didn't know how to describe his feelings. It was because he never dreamed that Tan Xiu, who had slept in the same dormitory with him and called him a brother, turned out to be the Everlasting Feast Hall's boss. It must be noted that according to his understanding, the Everlasting Feast Hall was the top restaurant in Shanghai. He heard that its annual net income was more than 9 digits. What was 9 digits? It was 100 million. With an annual net income of more than 100 million, did that mean that Tan Xiu himself was a super-rich man? Tan Xiu casually found a seat in the corner of the first floor and sat down. He, Ouyang Lulu, and Hu Qingsong were the only 3 people eating, so he didn't need to go upstairs to the luxury box with great fanfare. Upon seeing Ouyang Lulu sitting beside him with a matter-of-fact expression, he secretly sighed inwardly. He pointed to the opposite side and said to Hu Qingsong, Don't be confused. Hurry up and sit down. After taking a seat, Hu Qingsong cautiously asked, Big Bro Tang, can you tell me the truth? How much money do you have? To be honest, I really haven't calculated how much money I have recently, said Tan Xiu with a smile. In my opinion, money is just a series of numbers without any meaning. I've always been too lazy to think about meaningless things. Hu Qingsong looked at Tan Xiu with a silly expression. Thunder rolled inside his heart, and his worldview collapsed. What a show-off! A thick aura of pretentiousness flooded Tang Xiu like a tidal wave, causing Tang Xiu to feel as though he was possessed by a golden light at this moment. Hu Qingsong's big donkey eyes were pierced with a burning pain. The envy, jealousy, and hatred of ordinary people simply couldn't express even 1/10,000th of his feelings. One of Hu Qingsong's dreams was to be the number in his bank card, to the point that he couldn't even count it with his fingers. But now, he was still a poor farmer, with only a few dry rations in his pocket. He had to be thick-skinned enough to ask his parents to provide for him. Yet, Tan Xiu actually told him that money was just a number in Tan Xiu's eyes, and that it had no meaning. It made his strong heart almost collapse. What kind of person would say that money was just a series of numbers? Only those super-rich people with endless wealth would say something like that, right? Could it be that Tan Xiu was now comparable to those super-rich people? The fragrant dishes were served by the Everlasting Feast Hall's staff. Nearly all the staff of the Everlasting Feast Hall knew Tan Xiu's identity, so they performed very well in front of him. For meat dishes, 2 vegetable dishes, and a soup were all appetizing. After Tan Xiu started eating, Hu Qingsong felt like he woke up from a dream and broke free from his complicated emotions. However, he didn't rush to eat and instead looked at Tan Xiu and asked, Big Bro Tang, are you willing to support me in the future? I'll be diligent in any work. You want to be an apprentice chef in the Everlasting Feast Hall? Tan Xiu asked with a smile. I believe you have more than one business in the Everlasting Feast Hall, said Hu Qingsong. Why do you say so? Tan Xiu raised his brows and asked with a smile. Because even if the Everlasting Feast Hall can make money, the amount is limited, said Hu Qingsong with all seriousness. You can't think that money is just a series of numbers. The Everlasting Feast Hall's headquarters is in Jingmen Island, with branches in Hong Kong, Shanghai, and the imperial capital, said Tan Xiu. Do you think I have any other business now? Hu Qingsong stared blankly. After thinking for a while, he still shook his head and said, "It's not enough. You're usually carefree and careless, with the rough character of a northeastern man." Tan Xiu said with a smile. "Actually, you're not. You're definitely a shrewd person. However, doesn't your family have a business? Don't tell me you don't plan to go home and take care of your family's business after you graduate from college?" "My family can only be regarded as a nouveau riche family. My dad's body is tougher than mine," said Hu Qingsong with a forced smile. "My family members are like wolves and tigers, always eyeing that business. I'm not interested in going back and snatching business from them." "I can invest to help you with your business," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "You can invest to help me with my business, but can you make more money than working for you?" asked Hu Qingsong. Tan Xiu was silent for a moment. The smile on his face was replaced by a serious expression as he tapped the table with his fingers and said, "Don't you think it's a bit early to talk about this?" "Do you really think it's early?" Hu Qingsong asked again. Tan Xiu shot him a defeated look and said with a helpless expression, all right. Since you've said it like this, you can work for me later. We'll talk about the specifics later. Also, Xue Chao is an honest man, so I'm ready to let him help me." "You haven't told me what other business you have apart from the everlasting feast hall," asked Hu Qingsong hurriedly. "Today's third update, I'm looking for a guaranteed monthly ticket support." Chapter 513. Tan Xiu once thought that he must have a group of confidants and subordinates if he wanted to expand his business in the future. He felt that it was a bit early to tell Hu Qingsong about it. But since it had come to this, it would be meaningless to conceal it. After pondering for a while, he finally made a decision and said, "The magnificent Tang Corporation." Hu Qingsong frowned and thought for a while. His complexion suddenly changed and he abruptly got up from the sofa. He pressed his hands on the table and stared at Tan Xiu as he hurriedly said, "You mean, you're the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss? The company that produces God's nectar?" "That's right." Tan Xiu nodded. Hu Qingsong had already been shocked to the point of no return today. His heart had already become numb. Therefore, he recovered quickly this time as he raised his thumbs up and praised, "Big Bro Tang, this little brother is willing to do my utmost for you. You're simply a god in my eyes." Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, "Can you die if you don't exaggerate? Cut the crap and eat quickly. We still have classes in the afternoon." Hu Qingsong quickly nodded and said, "Let's eat, shall we? Teacher Han just gave you some eye drops. We mustn't be late in the afternoon no matter what. However, Big Bro Tang, you're really a marvel. You have endless wealth and stand at the level that countless students can't even imagine for a lifetime, yet you're still like an obedient baby studying at school." This old Hu is convinced. Tang Xiu was originally worried that it would affect the relationship between the two if he told him too much. But now, he felt that his worry was obviously unnecessary after seeing Hu Qingsong's appearance. Since he was in a good mood, he smilingly said, "Learning more things while you're still young is always good for you." "I understand that." Hu Qingsong nodded. For the first time, Ouyang Lulu seriously observed Hu Qingsong. She suddenly took out a Paradise Manor VIP card from her bag and put it in front of Hu Qingsong, saying, "This is for you. You're welcome to dine at the Paradise Manor later." Paradise Manor? What kind of place is this? Hu Qingsong curiously asked. "It's a comprehensive manor for dining and entertainment." Ouyang Lulu lightly smiled. "With the serial number on this membership card, all expenses will be waived while you are studying at Shanghai University." Hu Qingsong asked curiously, "Are you the owner of Paradise Manor?" "Yeah." Ouyang Lulu nodded. At this moment, Hu Qingsong felt as though all the strength in his body was sucked away. He looked at Tan Xiu and then at Ouyang Lulu and suddenly said with a dejected expression, "I suddenly realized that I've been living a failure for more than 20 years. We're about the same age, but you've already made a name for yourselves, while I'm ignorant and have accomplished nothing." "I'll be 24 soon, so I'm a few years older than you," said Ouyang Lulu with a charming smile. So, don't worry. Study hard. After a few years, you will be able to step into society. When that time comes, work hard and you will definitely achieve something. Hu Qingsong clenched his fists and seriously said, I'll think about it. To be honest, being with the two of you today has touched me deeply. Even if he followed Boss Tang in the future, if he didn't have any social experience, he wouldn't be able to do anything good. I've decided that when I have time in university, I'll go out to work and gain some social experience. That's a good thing. Ouyang Lulu gave him a thumbs up and giggled. The three of them enjoyed the meal very much. Although Ouyang Lulu couldn't be alone with Tan Xiu, Hu Qingsong's startled and shocked expression from time to time made her feel very amused. Coupled with his forthright character, it was to Ouyang Lulu's liking. However, just as the three of them were about to finish their meal, the sound of beating and cursing came from the hall outside the everlasting feast hall. The sound of things being smashed made the guests at the outermost tables stand up to avoid it. You guys eat first. I'll go and have a look. Tan Xiu raised his brows. He put down his chopsticks, got up, and walked outside. In front of the bar counter. For security guards of the everlasting feast hall had already subdued the troublemakers. On the floor was a blind old lady with disheveled hair and a walking stick, constantly shaking her head and sighing. It was obvious that she was hit by a hard object on her forehead. There was a small cut on her forehead with blood flowing down to her eyebrows. What happened? Tan Xiu walked over and asked Qinan. Pointing to the blind old lady on the floor, Qinan forced a smile and said, This old lady's mouth is too unpleasant to hear. When she first came in, everyone thought she was going to eat, but in the end, she directly went upstairs and walked around all the private rooms. When she came down, she told the customers who hit them that they were going to die today. She asked them to immediately contact their other family members and make arrangements for their funeral. The obese middle-aged man, who was restrained by a security guard, still had anger in his eyes. He desperately raised his head and shouted, That's right. That damn old thing. It's fine if she only said 1 or 2 sentences. But she just kept repeating the same words and kept cursing us to die. We told her to leave, but she refused to leave and even spat on the dishes we ordered. Tan Xiu could only force a wry smile inwardly. He grabbed the napkin box from the table at the side, took out a few pieces and squatted in front of the blind old lady, saying, Old lady, you cursed people and even spat on their food. This is wrong. Come on, don't move. Your forehead is bleeding. I'll wipe it for you first. I'll send someone to take you to the nearby infirmary to bandage it. The old blind woman's frowning expression instantly changed. She grabbed Tan Xiu's wrist and squeezed it a few times. After releasing it, she suddenly clapped her hands and smilingly said, They can live. Their family of brats can finally live. You damned old hag. You're still talking. The obese middle-aged man angrily shouted. Tan Xiu raised his hand to interrupt the blind old lady. He frowned and asked, Old lady, I don't understand why you said that. Since their family doesn't understand, and neither does everyone else, can you explain it to us? The blind old lady pointed to Tan Xiu and said, You know heavenly secrets better than me. Although you can't see it now, you definitely understand it. This old blind still wants to live for a few more years. I'm still reluctant to part with the secular world, so heavenly secrets must not be revealed. Trap their family and don't let them leave the restaurant even half a step away. Red candles, dog blood, and 10,000 firecrackers. Spread them on the ground outside when their family leaves the restaurant tomorrow. Heavenly secrets. Tan Xiu's expression changed and he grabbed the blind old lady's wrist. In just a few seconds, his expression had changed. He could clearly feel a special energy fluctuation inside the blind old lady's body. It was very strong. This energy ran through her whole body as though there was a stream of water surging inside her body. You are? Tan Xiu asked in a low voice. I'm so old that I even forgot my own name, said the blind old lady with a smile. You can call me Old Blind. In this life, I, an old blind man, understand fate, fortune-telling, stealing, snatching, and losing. I didn't expect that I would find such an interesting life in just a few years. Little guy, you're very interesting. Tan Xiu looked up at Chi Nan and said, take their family to the back and provide them with good food and drinks. Satisfy whatever they need as much as possible. Remember, don't let them leave even half a step before sunrise tomorrow morning. Understood. Chi Nan immediately nodded. The fat middle-aged man shouted, what are you doing? I'm warning you. This is the 21st century society ruled by law. If you dare to detain us illegally, I'll definitely sue you. That's right. You're illegally detaining us. You're practicing feudal superstition. We're guests who came here to eat, not your prisoners. Another middle-aged woman also shouted. At this time, a young man among the onlookers also chimed in, you're a restaurant, and they're guests who came here to eat. You shouldn't restrict their freedom like this, right? Also, this old blind looks like a swindler. She must have some kind of scheme. Don't tell me your everlasting feast hall wants to be an accomplice. Chi Nan ignored them and ordered the 4 security guards to take the family away. Tan Xiu propped up the blind old woman and brought her to his table. Then, he smilingly asked, you're very amazing, old lady. You're unexpectedly proficient in divination. You said that you can't reveal the heaven's secret, but you've actually done it. You're doing it under the condition that you lose your lifespan to save that family. The blind old woman grinned and said, this old blind has indeed revealed the heaven's secret, but I'm not the only one who obtained the Tao. It's very interesting, very interesting. Do you know why I dared to reveal the heaven's secret? Why? Tan Xiu was puzzled. Because of you, said the blind old woman. Because of me? Tan Xiu was confused. The blind old woman heavily nodded and said, yes, it's because of you. I found something interesting. As long as I drag you into this karmic event, the heavenly Tao's punishment seems to have lost its target and can't befall on me at all. Can you see through my divination? Asked Tan Xiu. The blind old woman quickly waved her hand and said, don't do that. Don't harm me. I dare to see the lives of all the people in the world, but I don't dare to see your divination. Else, I'm afraid this old blind will immediately die. Why? Asked Tan Xiu again. The blind old woman shook her head and said, I don't know. Your fate is too strange. I've been studying the heavenly Tao for hundreds of years, yet I still can't figure it out. Forget it, let's not talk about this. How about we discuss something else? What is it? Asked Tan Xiu. I'm tired of staying in the country. How about sending me abroad? Said the blind old woman. I like the sea, so it's better to send me to the sea. But I can't see where it is. It's like another world, another space, and I can't go there by myself. Tan Xiu was shaken inwardly. He understood that the blind old woman had already divined the situation on Nine Dragons Island. She was right. Although Nine Dragons Island was still in this world, once the reconstruction was completed and he arranged a huge array, it would definitely be like a new space, a new world. Today, the 4th chapter is here. It's the National Day, yet I can only stay at home and write. I'm also drunk. Baby, I hate you. Chapter 5:14. Calmly looking at the blind old lady, Tan Xiu shook his head and said, Old lady, you're old, so don't mess around. It was not easy to cultivate for 100 years. If one could not see through the affairs of the mortal world, one would not be able to sever the threads of the mortal world. There's a thread in the unseen world that's pulling me, and I can't escape. The blind old lady was silent. She did have an unfulfilled wish, but that wish was very, very difficult to fulfill. Perhaps even if she lived for another 100 years, she would not be able to do as Tan Xiu had said and cut off that thread of red dust. Because of this, she wanted to peek into the immortal realm in the heavenly secrets and live in seclusion. I can't. The blind old lady was silent for a long time before she shook her head and smiled bitterly. Tan Xiu lightly said, we can't miss any chance. If they couldn't transcend, they would be reincarnated and continue to bear the pain of the industry. What's the point? The blind old lady said, I want to go there. I hope you can help me. Tan Xiu was silent for a moment before he turned to look at Ouyang Lulu and Hu Qingsong and said, Are you too full? If you're full, wait for me outside. I'll come later. Ouyang Lulu and Hu Qingsong looked at each other in confusion. They could not understand the meaning behind Tan Xiu and the blind old lady's words. After hesitating for a moment, they still listened to Tan Xiu and walked outside. Tan Xiu said, Tell me about your background. The blind old woman smiled and said, My origin is very simple. I'm from Hongdong County in the northwest. My ancestors were members of the occult sect, but it's a pity that too many heavenly secrets have been revealed, so I'm the only one left now. In the first 50 years, I married 9 times, and each time, my husband died early because of me. For the next 70 years, I traveled to every corner of the country, but I still couldn't find the direction and answer. Tan Xiu asked, In other words, you have nothing to worry about now? The blind old woman shook her head and said, My only wish is to find my ancestors' tomb. Unfortunately, the rule of my family is to only pass it down to males and not females. The reason why I was able to learn divination techniques was because I learned them on my own from the books and notes my father left behind. Tan Xiu nodded and said, Since you want me to help you find a place to stay for the rest of your life, then let's talk about the conditions. Speak. The blind old lady said. Tan Xiu said seriously, Give me your life. The blind old lady smiled and said, Although I don't dare to say that my fate is up to me and not the heavens, it's impossible for others to control my life. However, you are very special and interesting. If you really have the ability in this aspect, you can take it. After pondering for a moment, Tan Xiu slowly said, I'll give you half a year to think it through. If the final decision is made, I will send someone to send you there. Half a year. The blind old lady said in surprise, I don't need half a year to consider. Tan Xiu said, You don't need it, but I do. The place you mentioned hasn't been renovated yet, so it can't be used for the time being. So, come back here half a year later. All right. The blind old lady took her walking stick and got up from the sofa, saying, I'll come back here half a year later. If there's anything you need my help with within half a year, you only need to burn 3 incense sticks and shout Old Blind 3 times. I'll naturally come ahead of time. All right. Tan Xiu nodded. After sending the blind old lady away, he returned inside and looked at Qi Nan, who came to greet him, saying, Have you settled that family? Qi Nan nodded and said, They've been settled. I used some special medicine to make them faint. They'll wake up tomorrow morning. Remember my words. If they wake up ahead of time, don't let them step out of the everlasting feast hall's entrance before sunrise tomorrow, Tan Xiu ordered. If they really want to leave, no matter how you try to stop them, just let one of them go and then send someone to follow him. Wait for half an hour. If that person doesn't have any safety issues, then let the others go. Boss, do you really believe that old blind's words? Asked Qi Nan hesitantly. I believe her. Tan Xiu nodded and said, Because she's not an ordinary person. Don't look at her being easily knocked down. Don't look at her blindness. She can see things and people more clearly than anyone else. If she doesn't want to be beaten, that family won't be able to touch her at all if it's not for some special reason. What special reason? Asked Qi Nan, confused. She wants to attract my attention and make me come forward, Tan Xiu said lightly. She wants to lead me to her. Qi Nan knitted her brows and asked, Can't she just look for you directly? Tan Xiu shook his head. He found that Qi Nan wouldn't understand even if he explained it to her. Therefore, Tan Xiu waved his hand and said, Forget it. Just take care of the restaurant's business. I still have classes in the afternoon, so I'll go first. That's right, if Han Qinggu comes to look for you again, don't give her any face. Qinan forced a smile and said, Boss, do you have any emotional problems with Miss Han? She seems to have some complaints about you, and you. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. Tan Xiu glared at her and reprimanded. In short, don't deal with her as much as possible. After that, Tan Xiu unexpectedly left the everlasting feast hall. Looking at Hu Qingsong and Ouyang Lulu waiting for him outside, Tan Xiu said, Lulu, I have to go back to school for classes in the afternoon. You go do your business first. I'll go to the Paradise Manor to have a meal with you when I have time. A trace of reluctance was revealed in Ouyang Lulu's eyes, but she still nodded and said, Then I'll go back first. If you don't come to find me, I'll go to your school to find you. All right. Tan Xiu nodded and threw the car key to Ouyang Lulu. The car was a luxury car in his garage, but Tan Xiu didn't want to attract too much attention, so he usually didn't want to drive it. 1:00 in the afternoon. Tan Xiu and Hu Qingsong returned to Shanghai University. After returning to their dormitory, they found that Yu Kai and the others were not there, so Tan Xiu tidied up his bed. Since he rarely stayed on campus, his bed was covered with dust, and even the desk below was full of messy things. After tidying up everything, Tan Xiu looked at Hu Qingsong, who was lying on the bed with his hands as a pillow. It was unknown what he was thinking about. Tan Xiu then said with a smile, Don't tell anyone about my matters. Don't worry. I understand. Hu Qingsong nodded. Tan Xiu let out an indifferent smile. He patted the bed and said, There's still more than an hour before the class starts. Stay by yourself. I'm going to the campus library. All right. Hu Qingsong replied and continued to think about his own matters. Tan Xiu knew that the things he let Hu Qingsong know today must have deeply touched him. Although he looked rough, he was actually a very meticulous person. Moreover, he was also very smart. Perhaps he didn't feel anything before, but now, he had probably begun to think about his future path. Thinking. It was a sign of maturity for everyone. Tan Xiu was a bit worried that Hu Qingsong's relationship with him would deteriorate after knowing some of his matters. But now, it seemed that his worries were groundless. On the contrary, Hu Qingsong had begun to learn to think and had begun to plan his future life. After leaving the dormitory, Tang Xiu took a few books and went to the campus library. What surprised him was that the library, which was usually deserted, was very lively at noon today. Groups of students were whispering to each other as they walked inside. What puzzled him even more was that most of them were boys. What's the situation inside, teacher? Asked Tan Xiu curiously after returning the books to the library teacher. What else could it be? Nowadays, when young men see beautiful girls, they can't wait to rush up to them to please them. Sigh, thinking back to when we were young. The middle-aged female teacher in her 40s sighed and shook her head. At the same time, her eyes were immersed in memories. A smile appeared at the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth. He could understand those boys who were in their puberty. If he didn't have the opportunity in the 10,000 years immortal world, perhaps he would be like those students who couldn't wait to get close to beautiful girls. After returning the books, Tan Xiu walked inside again. Recently, due to various matters, he had missed a lot of reading time. Therefore, he decided that he must settle down after school started. Since he was a student, he must act like one. Read, learn, and work hard to improve his ability. When passing by a row of bookshelves, he glanced in the direction where there were many students. Through the crowd, he saw Jiang Fian sitting in the innermost corner, quietly reading a book at the desk. A smile immediately appeared at the corner of his mouth. Although he saw Jiang Fian, he was sure that she wasn't the one who attracted so many boys because she wasn't that attractive. Mu Weining. Her beautiful face appeared in Tan Xiu's mind. He secretly shook his head in his heart. Mu Weining was indeed beautiful. Whether it was her face, figure, or temperament, she was the best among women. But he was hurt in his heart. He didn't want to have any emotional entanglements with her. Once. He had fantasized about falling in love once in his life, getting married once, and having a happy life with a woman. The years in the immortal world, those days when they were together, were his happiest and most satisfying time. He even hoped that this situation would continue until the end of time, until the seas dried up and the rocks crumbled. He even made a decision that even if he succeeded in passing the tribulation, he would use deceptive means to stay in the immortal world to accompany her. But the result? Just like a dream, the dream was shattered. What was left for him was death, and what was left for him was a heart full of pain. Tan Xiu didn't go over to say hello. He turned around and walked towards the required books area. After choosing a few books, he registered at the door and went straight back to the dormitory. However, after going to the library and coming out from the library, even though he made a simple disguise, he was still recognized by many people. He was almost surrounded like a superstar. This situation made him very helpless and depressed. He only hoped that as time passed, people would gradually forget his identity as a miracle doctor. Chapter 5:15. In the afternoon. Tan Xiu, Hu Qingsong, as well as Yu Kai and Zhao Yang, who came back beaming with happiness, came to the classroom together. No one was absent or late since the afternoon was the foreign language class of their teacher in charge, Han Qinggu. Tap, tap, the sound of high-heeled shoes stepping on the floor came from the corridor. Han Qinggu, who was dressed in casual and fashionable clothes, came from the outside with a book in her arms. When her figure appeared in the eyes of the whole class, she immediately attracted everyone's attention. Great! Finally, no one is skipping class anymore. Han Qinggu put the book on the podium and slowly glanced at the class. Her eyes lingered on Tan Xiu for a second or two before she spoke with satisfaction. However, as she spoke, the eyes of the whole class fell on Tan Xiu and a strange smile appeared on their faces. Tan Xiu sighed inwardly. He tried his best to force a smile and said, "Miss Han is really beautiful today. I didn't report in time this morning due to some special reasons. I hope you can forgive me. This kind of situation will never happen again." Ha! A smile outlined on the corner of Han Qingwu's mouth. She glanced at Tan Xiu and nodded. It's a great thing to know one's mistake and correct it. I'm not a stingy person. You stay and clean the classroom after today's class is over, and I'll forget about you skipping class this morning. All right. Tan Xiu agreed, but he secretly muttered inside, only women and villains are hard to deal with. In this class. Han Qinggu was obviously in a good mood, and the reaction of the students was also very enthusiastic. As the class ended, Han Qinggu swept her eyes at Tan Xiu when she was tidying up her books and turned to walk outside. Hu Qingsong, who was sitting next to Tan Xiu, elbowed Tan Xiu and said with a faint smile, "Big bro Tang, our teacher Han really takes care of you. If it were other students who skipped class without reason, they would definitely have their credits deducted. But she only punished you to clean the classroom to make up for your mistakes. It seems that she has really fallen in love with you and is afraid that you won't be able to get your graduation certificate." On the other side, Yu Kai blew the long hair on his forehead and also chuckled. That's right, that's right. I also think that teacher Han has fallen in love with Tan Xiu. I say, Boss Tang, although you have a lot of women and some of them are a bit better than class monitor Han, our class monitor Han is still a great beauty. If you're a man, you might as well take her as well. Tan Xiu asked, are you two stud horses? Hu Qingsong and Yu Kai looked at each other and then raised their middle fingers at Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and said, I won't be staying in the dormitory tonight. There's dust on the bedding. I plan to take it to Blue Star Villa Complex to wash. I'll stay in the school dormitory starting tomorrow. With a thick face, Yu Kai said, Big bro Tang, can we discuss something? How about giving me the key to your Blue Star Villa Complex? I'll take my girlfriend out when I have nothing to do in the future. I don't need to spend money to rent a hotel room. Fuck off. Tan Xiu rolled his eyes at him and directly refused this unreasonable request. Yu Kai didn't get angry. He stroked his chin and pondered about how to arrange a one-night stand duel in Tan Xiu's villa. 5:00 in the afternoon. Tan Xiu drove Yu Kai's BMW and returned to Blue Star Villa complex with the bedding. After throwing the bedding into the washing machine in the laundry room, he asked the housekeeper Auntie Zhang to wash it for him and then went to the study room on the second floor. After releasing the fierce beast from the array, Tan Xiu took out some meat from his interspatial ring and threw it to the beast. Then, he turned around and walked to the desk. The National Day trip to the imperial capital was a fruitful harvest for him. But aside from the 9 phoenix hairpin, the other 4 items seemed to have their own secrets. Moreover, he had yet to thoroughly study the secrets of these 4 items. Hence, he decided to study these 4 items when he had time in the future, hoping that they would be helpful to him. After having dinner, Tan Xiu took a book he borrowed from the school library and came to a chair outside the courtyard. Auntie Zhang served him some fragrant tea and he read it while sipping the tea. However, not long after, he heard the sound of something smashing coming from the villa next door. Auntie Zhang, is there someone living in the villa next door? Tan Xiu turned around and looked at Zhang Xinlan, who was sweeping the garden. I heard someone smashing things in the villa when I went out to buy groceries this morning. Zhang Xinlan nodded. Later, when I came back from buying groceries, I found a young man standing on the top of the villa, looking around. I heard the sound of something smashing several times today from the villa next door. A smile appeared on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth. He stood up and put the book on the chair behind him, saying with a smile, I'm going out, Auntie Zhang. Having said that, he walked out of the villa's courtyard and came to the villa number 11 next door. After looking at the closed door, he rang the doorbell. Who are you? As the iron gate was slowly opened, Yang Lu, who was crossing his arms and looking unhappy, looked at Tan Xiu and then raised his chin and asked. Tan Xiu pointed to the next door and said with a smile, I'm the owner of Villa number 9, your neighbor. Yang Lu stared blankly for a moment and immediately asked, Is there something you need? There's something I need, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Yang Lu was silent for a moment and then said, Even if you're fine, I happen to have something to talk to you about. Come in. Tan Xiu stepped into the courtyard and looked at the broken bottles and cans in the courtyard. The smile on the corner of his mouth turned thicker. After following Yang Lu straight to the villa's hall, he found that this villa was not as luxurious as his own, but the interior decoration was also good. Furthermore, what surprised him was that the inside of the villa was very neat and clean despite the messy appearance of so many broken things outside. What would you like to drink? Yang Lu asked. White wine. Beer? Foreign wine. I like drinking tea. Tan Xiu said with a faint smile, the better the tea, the happier I'll be. Yang Lu rolled his eyes and left. When he came back, he was holding a pot of tea and 2 empty cups. After putting them in front of Tan Xiu, he said, Pour the tea yourself. By the way, what are you looking for me for? Tan Xiu reached out to pour the tea and didn't answer Yang Li's question. Instead, he said with a smile, Tell me, what's the matter you need me for? I didn't expect you to be such a difficult person to deal with. Yang Li snorted and said, Fine, if you don't want to say it, then I'll ask first. Since you live next door to me, you should know that there was a problem in my villa some time ago, right? There's a problem in your villa, so you should be looking for the property management. Why do you ask me? Tan Xiu asked back. If I'm looking for the property management, then I don't need to ask you, said Yang Lu. Can you answer one more question for me? Asked Tang Xiu with a smile. Go ahead. Yang Lu spread out his hands. What do you do? Tan Xiu asked. In a flash. Yang Lu sat straight on the sofa. His body tensed up as his eyes stared at Tan Xiu. After half a minute of silence, he slowly said, What do you want to say? It's nothing. Don't be nervous, said Tan Xiu with a smile. I'm not a cop, and I don't like to poke my nose into other people's business. Of course, if you're willing to treat me as a good person, I'll gladly accept it. My things, are they with you? Asked Yang Lu. Yes, they're with me. Tan Xiu nodded. Phew, Yang Lu was obviously relieved. He slowly took out a cigar box from his bosom and took out 2 cigars. After throwing one to Tan Xiu, he lit it and took a deep puff. Then, he said with a smile, since they're with you, then I'm relieved. After some observation, I found that a lot of people came to my villa while I was away. Also, I lurked in the security's monitoring room and found some things from the surveillance video. But that's not important. What's important is my things. You didn't see my figure in the video, did you? Asked Tan Xiu with a smile. You're indeed not among the people who came to my villa, said Yang Lu. Say it. How can you give my things back to me? You haven't answered my question yet, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Yang Lu was silent for a while. Then, he suddenly grinned, revealing his big white teeth as he said with a smile, I'm a hero thief. Have you heard of the occult sect's thieves? You're also a member of the occult sect? Asked Tan Xiu with a strange expression. You know the existence of the occult sect's people? Asked Yang Lu with a surprised expression. Who exactly are you? I didn't know much about the occult sect's people before, said Tan Xiu with a smile. But I went to the imperial capital yesterday and participated in the auction held by the Situ family. I just didn't expect that my neighbor turned out to be the occult sect's great thief. You're a hero thief. A bit of dissatisfaction was revealed on Yang Li's face as he corrected Tan Xiu's words. Then, he continued, all right, I've told you everything. Give my things back to me. Those gold, silver, jewelry, cash, diamonds, and the like are all yours. I need my tools. Tan Xiu got up and said with a smile, since I know what I want to know, I won't take anything from you. Come with me to my place. I'll give your things back to you. But since we're neighbors, shouldn't we get along well? I don't want the things in my villa to suddenly disappear one day. That's not necessarily true, said Yang Lu with a ruminating expression. If you let me know that you're the kind of rich but heartless person who earns ill-gotten wealth, maybe your things will really disappear. I won't take advantage of others, nor will I take others' things. Tan Xiu said with a smile. But if anyone dares to touch my things, I don't mind cutting off his hands and making him lose the ability to eat. Yang Lu squinted his eyes as he watched Tan Xiu's back walking outside. Suddenly, his pace quickened as he used a peculiar footwork and lightning speed to strike Tan Xiu's back. He was confident in his own skill. In his opinion, even though he only used 30 to 40% of his strength, he could still hit Tan Xiu. Whoosh! A figure flashed as Tan Xiu's figure appeared half a meter away out of thin air. What? Yang Li's complexion drastically changed. His eyesight and speed were several times better than an ordinary person. Yet, he still only felt a blur in front of him as his fist struck empty air. Chapter 5:16. Yang Lu was a disciple of the occult sect and was once a disciple of a martial arts grandmaster. Even if his current strength was still unable to surpass the master, it was still not a problem for him to beat up more than a dozen punks. However, when he launched a sneak attack on Tan Xiu, he found that his strike was actually dodged by the other party. It was as if the other party had eyes behind his back. However, what shocked him the most was not this, but Tan Xiu's speed. Even with his keen eyesight, he still only felt a blur in front of his eyes as his fist missed. Such a result made his heart tremble. You may know a man for a long time, but you don't know his heart. Tan Xiu's footsteps moved and instantly appeared at Yang Li's side. His fingers pierced out and directly sealed several major acupoints on Yang Li's body. Then, he took 2 steps back and stood at the side, shaking his head and sighing. Yang Lu wanted to continue attacking, but as a numb feeling emerged in his body, his eyes instantly widened, and a look of disbelief burst out from his eyes. He desperately exerted his strength, only to find that he had lost control of his body. No matter how much strength he exerted, he couldn't move even a little bit. How did you do it? Yang Li's voice was hurried and shrill, and even contained a strong sense of panic. It doesn't matter how I did it. What's important is that I was kind enough to help you put away those things to prevent them from being exposed. Yet you actually sneak attacked me, which really chilled me to the core. It's said that thieves also have their own way of doing things. Chivalrous thieves do exist, but you can't be called a chivalrous thief. I'm afraid you're just a petty thief with a little ability. A big hat was directly put on Yang Li's head. Although Tan Xiu knew that Yang Lu was just testing him, he still said something to hit him. Upon hearing it, Yang Lu angrily shouted, "You're not allowed to insult me. I just wanted to measure your strength. Who would have thought that I would really sneak attack you? What's the use of sneak attacking you? That's why I just said that you may know a man for a long time but you don't know his heart. Who knows what wishful thinking you have in your heart?" Tan Xiu said indifferently. There is a saying that you should have heard before, seeing is believing. I saw you attack me with my own eyes. If I didn't know some martial arts, I'm afraid I would have been punched in the back by you. Yang Lu fell silent. He knew that no matter how he explained, Tan Xiu wouldn't want to hear it. After all, he did launch a sneak attack just now to test whether Tan Xiu knew Kung Fu or not, and whether he was a member of the Strange Doors. After a long while. What do you want? Asked Yang Lu slowly. Tan Xiu thought for a moment and said, Apologize to me and compensate me. Yang Lu was taken aback and asked, Apologizing is not a problem, but how are we going to compensate? Tan Xiu said, Apologize first, and then I'll tell you. Yang Lu nodded and said, Brother Tan Xiu, I was wrong just now. I apologize to you. I hope you can forgive me for my rudeness. Tan Xiu nodded with satisfaction. He approached Yang Lu and unsealed his acupoints lightning fast. As he turned around and walked outside, he said indifferently, I'll return the tools in your box to you later. But the gold, silver, jewelry, cash, and diamonds inside will be my compensation. Fuck, Yang Lu, who had just regained his mobility, moved his hands and feet a few times. Upon hearing Tan Xiu's words, his body slightly stiffened. Looking at Tan Xiu's back as he walked outside, he cursed and then chased after him with a wry smile. At this moment, he wished he could slap his own big melon seeds. It was just a sneak attack that didn't even touch Tan Xiu's hair, yet his wealth of hundreds of millions was lost just like that. Although he was not short of money and those things were just a small amount to him, he was still very depressed inside. After chasing him, he shouted, I say, Brother Tan Xiu, you're too black-hearted. I may be a chivalrous bandit, but you're a robber. Tan Xiu glanced at him and sneered, Those who attacked me before, except for one who was subdued by me, have all turned into corpses. Do you think you can still stand and talk to me if I didn't sense any malice from you? It's just a small amount of money, don't be so hesitant. Yang Lu gulped down his saliva. Although he didn't quite believe Tan Xiu's words, he knew that someone who could have such a terrifying skill was not a good person. Brother Tan Xiu, who exactly are you? I'm a student, answered Tan Xiu. Yang Lu rolled his eyes and snappily said, If you're a student, then I'm a policeman. But you do seem to be quite young. That's right. When I saw you just now, I felt that you looked a bit familiar, but I can't remember where I've seen you. Tan Xiu ignored him and went straight back to his villa. He told Yang Lu to wait in the living room downstairs and went to the second floor alone. In the study room, he took out the black suitcase from his interspatial ring. After opening it, he put away the stacks of 100 yuan bills, gold, silver, and jewelry inside, as well as the diamonds. Then, he closed the suitcase and carried it downstairs. Your stuff. Tan Xiu threw it to him. After accurately catching it, Yang Lu opened it and looked at it a few times. He then nodded and said, "Anyway, thanks. I've returned it to you, so don't randomly smash things again," said Tan Xiu. "Well, it's getting late, so I won't keep you any longer. Go back." Not only did Yang Lu not leave, but he also sat on the sofa in the living room. He put the suitcase aside and smilingly looked at Tan Xiu and said, "Brother Tan Xiu, it's fate that we meet each other. How about having a drink? I also have something I want to ask you." "Do you want to know how I made you unable to move?" asked Tan Xiu. "Yeah, I'm really curious." Yang Lu nodded without hesitation. "You have a very powerful skill, but you used a method that I didn't even notice. It made me lose control of my body. I'm really shocked and panic-stricken." Tan Xiu took out a cigarette from his pocket, lit it up and took 2 puffs. Then, he smilingly said, "I'm a Chinese medicine practitioner, so I have a very clear understanding of the human body's structure. How many bones, muscles, meridians, and acupoints do you have in your body? I'm very clear about all of these, and I can easily find them. Since you're a member of the occult sect, you should know about the acupoint sealing method." Hiss, Yang Lu had already faintly guessed that Tan Xiu might have used the acupoint sealing method, yet he was still shocked by his words. Furthermore, the reason why he asked was that he knew that some people in the occult sect knew the acupoint sealing method, but the effect was definitely not that powerful. After a while, Yang Lu suppressed the shock inside. He rubbed his hands and let out a flattering smile as he said with a smile, "Brother Tan Xiu, this brother has a presumptuous request, but I don't know if you can agree or not." I can't." Tan Xiu straightforwardly refused. Yang Li's expression turned sluggish as he forced a smile and said, "You haven't heard what I have to say. What I mean is that I'll worship you as my master as long as you're willing to teach me the acupoint sealing technique. It doesn't matter if you don't want to accept me as your disciple. I'm willing to pay to learn it." "I won't accept you as my disciple, there's no doubt about it," said Tan Xiu. "I can pay to learn it, but I don't know how much money you can take out." Yang Lu stretched out a finger and said with all seriousness, 100 million. Tan Xiu pointed to the door and said, "The door is over there. I won't send you off." With a strange expression, Yang Lu said, "Brother Tan Xiu, you don't need to rip me off like this, do you? Even though I managed to steal all of my master's wealth before he passed away, 100 million should be quite a lot, right? You just robbed me of hundreds of millions of wealth." Tan Xiu shrugged and chuckled, "Since you already know that I can casually rob hundreds of millions of wealth, do you think I'll still care about the 100 million tuition fee? You must know that if you want to learn the acupoint sealing technique, you must practice a cultivation technique. I happen to know a cultivation technique that can be practiced. If you learn it, not only will you be able to seal acupoints, it will also make your strength soar." 100 million. What a joke. Cultivation technique? Yang Lu was startled and hurriedly asked, "The cultivation technique you mentioned, is it the legendary internal energy cultivation technique?" Tan Xiu shook his head and then nodded, saying, "It's a kind of internal energy cultivation technique, but it's more powerful than ordinary internal energy cultivation techniques." Yang Li's complexion changed. He stared at Tan Xiu for half a minute and then solemnly said, 5 billion. This is all the wealth I can take out in a short time." Tan Xiu got up and walked toward the stairs as he lightly said, "No matter how much money you have, it doesn't mean anything to me. Don't bother me if you don't have 10 billion. You can go now. I don't want to say it for the 3rd time. 10 billion. Yang Lu jumped up from the sofa with disbelief in his eyes. He had seen people who were greedy, but he had never seen such a ruthless person. Although he just said that his wealth was only 5 billion was a lie, he absolutely didn't have a wealth of more than 10 billion. Even the total wealth he had was less than 1/3 of 10 billion. Is this forcing me to do more good deeds and share the burden of those who have obtained ill-gotten wealth? Yang Lu thought indignantly. However, he knew himself very well. If one day he could really get 10 billion, would he still use such a huge amount of wealth to learn acupoint sealing art from Tan Xiu? With such a sum of money, he would directly wash his hands of the world and enjoy a good life later. Tan Xiu returned to the second floor and looked at Yang Lu, who had just left the house. A smile outlined on the corner of his mouth. He felt that Yang Lu was a very interesting young man. He knew the sect master of the thief sect when he was in the immortal world, and if the sect master of the thief sect hadn't offended a formidable enemy and been pursued to death when he'd just reached the perfected golden immortal realm, he would probably have become a supreme exalt in the immortal world in the future. If he can really get 10 billion, it means that he does have some ability. It's not impossible to accept him as a disciple at that time. Tan Xiu thought silently with a smile. Chapter 5:17. The moonlight was like water, and a cool breeze blew in through the screen window, bringing a refreshing feeling to the room. The light in the study was slightly lit. Tan Xiu sat on the sofa, quietly looking at the 3 items on the tea table in front of him, the Qin Emperor's imperial jade seal, the ancient bronze lamp, and the guanyin vase. Among the 5 treasures he obtained in the capital, the 9 phoenix hairpin was the one he was most familiar with, so he didn't need to study it at all. The golden dragon head, in his opinion, was ordinary and not worth studying. But the 3 items in front of him made him look forward to it. I can't use the power of luck in the Qin Emperor's imperial jade seal for the time being. With my current level of cultivation, even if I touch it with my divine sense, it will bring me a lot of mental damage, not to mention trying to use my astral power. If I really use it, I'm afraid that the astral power in my body will be disturbed, and I might even be possessed by the devil. I won't study it for the time being. The Buddhist relics in the ancient bronze lamp won't be of much help to me for the time being. But since this bronze lamp is a pseudo-fairy artifact, it's a good treasure for me now. Tan Xiu pondered for a moment, then took out a lighter and lit the lamp. Immediately, a peculiar fragrance wafted out. This fragrance was intoxicating, and an indescribable feeling welled up in one's heart. Tan Xiu's spiritual power was extremely strong. Through his keen perception, he was acutely aware that the spiritual energy in the surroundings was gradually surging towards the room. At the same time, there was a special energy that appeared in the surroundings. After the energy entered Tan Xiu's body, Tan Xiu felt a cool feeling, which was very comfortable, and his cultivation speed increased a lot. Focus, calm down. These 2 words just came to Tan Xiu's mind. Suddenly, his expression changed, and he was a little shocked. Because he also noticed that his thinking was particularly clear. Many things that confused him before emerged in his mind, and he could clearly sort out these thoughts, which made him burst out with all kinds of understanding and enlightenment. Buddhism pays attention to enlightenment. The most magical effect of the ancient bronze lamp is to improve people's understanding. Tan Xiu's eyes bloomed with extraordinary splendor, and he immediately picked up the last item, the guanyin vase. Staring at the golden liquid inside, he instantly released his divine sense. Unfortunately, to his helplessness, no matter how he observed, he could not figure out what the spherical golden liquid inside was. My cultivation is too low. I can't refine it. Tan Xiu finally put away the guanyin vase with a helpless expression. He sat cross-legged in the study and began to cultivate. In the blink of an eye, a night had passed. Although Tan Xiu's cultivation hadn't made much progress, his whole body felt refreshed and full of energy as the ancient bronze lamp burned. After extinguishing the ancient bronze lamp, he washed up and changed into a set of clean clothes. After eating breakfast at home, he rushed to school. Because he had become a celebrity now, he still disguised himself, such as big sunglasses and a peaked cap. If one did not recognize his appearance, they would think that he was just an ordinary young student. Last night, he thought about his life with Han Qinggu and finally decided to compromise for the time being. Because Han Qinggu was not Xue Qingcheng. Even if she was the reincarnation of Xue Qingcheng, before Han Qinggu's memory was restored, Han Qinggu was just another person. Moreover, if he couldn't avoid it, he could only face it. Since he had to get along with her for 4 years in college, he would face it as a normal student and teacher. Although he couldn't achieve mutual respect and love, at least it was necessary to strive to get along harmoniously through college life. Sure enough. After Tan Xiu came to school, his attitude towards Han Qingwu had changed, which made Han Qingwu very satisfied. Although she proposed to have dinner with Tan Xiu, but Tan Xiu found an excuse to refuse, the two still got along well. Days passed by. Because there was no special reason, Tan Xiu's life was very relaxed. Every day, apart from going to class, going to the library to read books, going to the cafeteria to eat, most of the time he stayed on campus. Gradually, many people forgot Tan Xiu's star identity. New topics and new events attracted the attention of others. At the end of the month, as usual, Tan Xiu left the teaching building with Hu Qingsong, Yu Kai, and the others after class and rushed to the cafeteria nearest to the teaching building. Brothers, we don't have classes in the afternoon. What are you going to do? Yu Kai asked while playing with the key of his BMW after giving the book to Xue Chao. Xue Chao said, I'm going to work. Boring. Yu Kai rolled his eyes and looked at Hu Qingsong, asking, what about you? Hu Qingsong said, I'm also going to go out to find a job and feel the taste of a part-time job. Yu Kai said with a strange expression, I say, old Hu, you have nothing better to do. You don't need to go out to be abused, do you? We usually have to attend classes, and you can't go out at all. How much money can you make if you take advantage of your break time to work? Also, it's very difficult to find a good job nowadays even for formal university graduates. You're just a student, are you going to hand out leaflets to others? I don't expect to find a good job, nor do I expect to have a high income, said Hu Qingsong. I just want to go out to see the various kinds of life and experience the feeling of making money. To tell you the truth, I've never relied on my own ability to earn a penny since I was a child. Yu Kai was stunned and fell into silence for a while. He then turned to look at Tan Xiu and asked, Big Bro Tang, you're not going to the library again, are you? Tan Xiu nodded and said, you guessed it right. I'm going to the library to read books. Recently, I've been unable to find the case data on some knowledge related to economics, so I'm going to look through it again and look for it carefully. Yu Kai shook his head and looked at Hu Qingsong, saying, Old Hu, since you want to go out and experience life, I'm also bored and idle, so I'll risk my life to accompany you. Let's go together. By the way, have you thought about what kind of job you're going to find? I've thought about it. There are 2 in total. The first one is to be a salesman and run business, and the second one is to be a courier. I'm looking for a courier job with a relatively relaxed schedule, said Hu Qingsong. Yu Kai stared blankly for a moment before he patted his forehead and said, I just remembered that I'm going to talk about life and ideals with a cute girl this afternoon, so I won't be accompanying you. Anyways, you guys go to the cafeteria for lunch. I'm going to find my cute girl. After saying that, this guy directly ran away. Tan Xiu's eyes retracted from Yu Kai's back as he looked at Hu Qingsong and smilingly said, the 2 jobs you've chosen are really good. Regardless of what kind of position you're in, you can exercise yourself. Work hard and strive to understand the hardships of life as soon as possible. Hu Qingsong grinned and said, don't worry. I'm not going out to play. Shortly after, the 3 of them had lunch together. Hu Qingsong and Xue Chao then left, whereas Tan Xiu went back to his dormitory and took the books he borrowed 2 days ago. Then, he went to the campus library alone. Just as he entered the library's entrance, Tan Xiu's brows wrinkled again. It was because he had seen it a few times. A lot of male students were gathered in the reading area on the first floor, and their eyes were constantly glancing at several female students in the corner. It's Mu Weining again. Tan Xiu secretly shook his head. After spending some effort to find several books on economics on the bookshelf, he went straight to a window seat on the second floor and sat down to read them quietly. Time fleeted by. In the blink of an eye, half of the afternoon had passed. Tan Xiu's reading speed was very fast. He had already finished reading the second book and had also turned more than a dozen pages of the third book. He had even made more than a dozen pages of notes in this half of the afternoon. Go away. We're not suitable for each other. A faint voice floated from afar. Tan Xiao looked up. He could tell from the voice that the one who said this was Mu Weining. Immediately after, a loud and clear voice also came over. Weining, I like you from the bottom of my heart. Please give me a chance. I promise I'll make you happy. I'm sorry, but I don't need it. Weining, don't be like this, okay? I'm our campus's most handsome boy, and you're our campus's belle. We're a match made in heaven, and we should be together. You know what? I've been preparing for a long time to confess to you today. If there's anything you're not satisfied with, you can tell me. I'll definitely try to change and become the type you like. Classmate, please be clear about this. I don't even know your name. Why should I agree to your pursuit? Besides, I already have someone I like. If I agree to be with you, it'll be irresponsible to you. So, please get out of the way. We need to leave. Mu Weining, you're deliberately brushing me off, aren't you? I've already investigated you. You don't have a boyfriend at all. Let go of me. I won't let go. Downstairs, the noise became louder and louder. Tan Xiao closed his textbook, got up, and walked to the staircase on the second floor. Looking at the scene of many people gathered below, a bitter smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He knew that boy. He was a senior in the third year of Shanghai University. He had been named as the most handsome boy in the school for 3 consecutive years. Not only was he handsome, but he also had good grades. He was also the vice-captain of the school's basketball team. It was said that his family was also rich and powerful. However, Tan Xiao also knew some things. For example, more than 2 years ago, he had once impregnated a girl and even abandoned her. Another example was that in his sophomore year, he had a total of more than 10 relationships. Once, he had sex with a girl in a car and was caught by his real girlfriend. And his real girlfriend was ruthless enough. She took a mobile phone video and uploaded it to the school forum. Although it was deleted very quickly, it was still seen by many people. In short, in many people's eyes, the boy named Lian Kang was a real scumbag. However, because of Lian Kang's family background, his good luck with boys, and his close relationship with some shady people in society, not many people in Shanghai University dared to provoke him. For example, there were definitely more than 100 boys gathered around, but Lian Kang had made a move on Mu Weining. Even if those boys were filled with righteous indignation and wanted to beat Lian Kang up, no one really dared to stand up for him. Chapter 518. Pulling out one's sword to help in the face of injustice was the demeanor of a chivalrous swordsman. Tan Xiao was not a chivalrous swordsman, but he couldn't help but want to help in the face of such a situation. Ring, 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 a faint ringtone sounded, accompanied by a vibration from Tan Xiao's pocket. When he reached for his mobile phone, Zhang Fian, who was next to Mu Weining, had already pounced toward Lian Kang. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, her cherry lips fiercely bit Lian Kang's wrist that was grabbing Mu Weining. Ouch! Are you a fucking dog? Lian Kang felt the pain. After releasing Mu Weining, he slapped Zhang Fian's cute little face, causing her to sit on the floor. This scene, it caused a commotion among the onlookers. Tan Xiao frowned, but he didn't immediately flare up. Instead, he took out his mobile phone and looked at the caller ID. After finding that it was Kang Xia, he picked up the call and said, "Wait a moment. I gotta deal with something. I'll call you back later." "Alright." Kang Xia replied and then hung up the phone. Tan Xiao walked down the stairs. At the same time, he clapped his hands and said aloud, "What an awe-inspiring show. You're a 7 feet tall man, yet you slapped a little girl to the floor. What's most inconceivable to me is that you're all so angry, yet you're all cowards. Nobody dares to step forward and speak a word of justice for these girls. TSK, don't you realize that this is the best time to be a hero and save the damsel in distress? Do you want to give up the chance to win the beauty just because you're afraid of her? In an instant, hundreds of pairs of eyes fell on Tan Xiu. Even though few people paid attention to Tan Xiu for some time, he was, after all, a popular man in the campus and everyone could recognize Tan Xiu. Furthermore, after hearing Tan Xiu's words, those boys' faces flushed red, shame and regret could be seen in their eyes. At this time, a sturdy boy came forward and loudly said, "Don't talk nonsense, Tan Xiu. We just didn't have the time. We didn't like Lian just now, but we didn't expect him to hit someone. If I had known earlier, I would have been the first to rush out and help these girls out. That's right. We just haven't had the time. This guy surnamed Lian is too shameless. He actually hit a female classmate and even groped her. This is fucking. I really feel ashamed to have an alumnus like Lian Kong. I'll definitely publicize what happened today and let all the teachers and students know his ugly face. I regret it. I regret that I didn't come out and beat him up just now so that he will remember this lesson. This guy is asking for a beating. The #1 goddess of Shanghai University is not someone he can lay his hands on. Why don't you take a good look at yourself?" While countless male students loudly expressed their support, Mu Weining, Li Xinjie, as well as Zhang Fian's group of 3 who were pulled up by the 2 girls, had their eyes lit up at the same time as they looked at Tang Xiu with eyes full of gratitude. "Beat him up!" Suddenly, someone in the crowd shouted. In just a second or two, dozens of male students rushed toward Lian Kong. Their fists and feet directly knocked down Lian Kong and several of his classmates, and then gave them a good beating. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Mu Weining and the other 2 girls hurriedly squeezed out of the crowd and strode toward Tan Xiu. "Thank you, Tan Xiu," said Mu Weining softly. Tan Xiu shook his head with a faint smile. He then looked at Zhang Fian and asked, "Are you all right?" Zhang Fian touched the 5 red and swollen handprints on her cheek. She shook her head and smilingly said, "I'm fine. I also bit him. That Lian Kong is really disgusting. If I knew that he would hit me, I would have used my Yin lift kick on him and made him die without descendants in this life." Ugh. Although Tan Xiu was quite courageous, he still shrunk his neck upon hearing Zhang Fian's words and felt a chill run down his back. At this moment, it was as if the saying, "a woman's heart is the most poisonous," had been completely verified. Mu Weining's pretty face blushed. She grabbed Zhang Fian's shoulder and said, "Thank you, Fian." Zhang Fian shook her head and smilingly said, "We're good sisters, no need to thank me. If you want to thank someone, thank Tan Xiu. If it weren't for him, maybe Lian Kong would have hit me." Mu Weining looked at Tan Xiu with particularly bright eyes. After being silent for more than 10 seconds, she said, "Tan Xiu, you should be a good person to the end. Can you help me solve this problem?" "Don't worry." Tan Xiu nodded and smilingly said, "I'm not talking about Lian Kong." Mu Weining shook her head. "I'm talking about all boys." "What do you mean?" asked Tan Xiu with a strange expression. Mu Weining plucked up her courage and seriously said, "Let's announce to the public that I'm your girlfriend and you're my boyfriend. No matter who confesses to me in the future, I can openly tell them that I already have a boyfriend and won't consider anyone else. But I'm afraid this matter is very unfair to you, and it should bring you some trouble." Tan Xiu pondered for a moment and recalled the scene of Mu Weining being surrounded by a lot of boys several times in the library. Finally, he nodded and lightly said, "All right. I've also received a lot of confessions from girls, so we can be considered as mutually beneficial." Mu Weining immediately got excited and heavily nodded. "Thank you." Tan Xiu waved his hand and turned to look at the chaotic scene. He then shouted, "Everyone, stop. If you beat that surnamed Lian to death, all of you will be shot to death. Also, you'll be punished by the school even if you seriously injure him. In an instant, the boys who were beating up Lien Kong and his classmates with anger finally realized the consequences of their actions. They stopped and retreated one after another. In the open space that was vacated, Lien Kong and his 3 classmates were beaten black and blue, with even bloodstains on their faces. However, the most miserable one was Lien Kong. One of his arms was obviously broken and deformed. Tan Xiu shook his head and walked to Lien Kang's side. He squatted down and grabbed Lien Kang's struggling arm. He exerted force with both hands and instantly put his broken arm back in place. Arg! His scream was like that of a pig being slaughtered, making people's hearts tremble. "Don't move if you don't want to become a cripple," said Tan Xiu lightly. "I've helped you set the bones in your arm, but don't move and don't carry heavy things for the next few days. As for the other injuries on your body, go to the school infirmary to deal with them." Lien Kong endured the sharp pain and roared, "You bastard, Tan Xiu. You don't need to shed crocodile tears for me. If it weren't for you, would this father have been beaten? Do you dare to say it again?" Tan Xiu frowned. "I said it. What can you do to this father?" Lien Kong roared. Tan Xiu shook his head. He reached out to break the bones he had just set and then kicked his face. As the blood from his nose intensified, he sneered and said, "You're just a wretched wretch in my eyes. A dog that bites Lu Dongbin. Once today's matter is spread out that you molested and groped girls, and even turned into beating a female student, I'm afraid your reputation will be ruined and you may even have to bear criminal responsibility. Of course, you were indeed beaten by your classmates, but you've aroused public anger. I believe that even if this matter reaches the ears of the school's leaders, they will be dealt with leniently." After that, Tan Xiu turned around and walked to Mu Weiniang's side, saying in a deep voice, "Mu Weiniang may be my girlfriend, but I've already given you face by not hitting you first. I've already given you face, yet you don't want it. You only have yourself to blame for ending up like this. We still need to talk about love, so there's no need to waste time on a scumbag like you." Immediately after, he grabbed Mu Weiniang's hand and walked upstairs. "Girlfriend?" At first, all the boys were secretly grateful for Tan Xiu's warning to Lien Kong. But after hearing Tan Xiu's declaration that Mu Weiniang was his girlfriend, their eyes turned hostile. At this moment, anyone with a good brain could realize that they seemed to have been used by Tan Xiu. Just because Tan Xiu mocked them with sarcastic words, they violently beat Lien Kong. On the second floor, Tan Xiu brought Mu Weiniang, Jiang Fian, and Li Xinjie to the desk where he was reading a book and said, "You read your book first. I have something to do and need to make a phone call." Mu Weiniang gently nodded and said, "Go ahead. I'll read my book first." Tan Xiu took out his mobile and dialed Kang Xia's number. Then, he asked, "I've almost finished dealing with the matter here. What's the matter that you just called me about?" "Boss, the senior executives of our company have discussed the launch date of the healthcare products. Since we have a lot of stock now, we've decided to start selling them on November 1st. Do you think this time is okay? Have the stores all over the country been prepared?" Tan Xiu asked. "Almost," said Kang Xia. "We've spent a lot of money and bought all the stores next to the God's Nectar exclusive store in every city. The renovation has also reached the final stage and will be completed in a few days." "What about the sales staff?" asked Tan Xiu. "They've also been trained and assigned to their posts," said Kang Xia. "However, there's still one problem that hasn't been solved yet." "What is it?" asked Tan Xiu. "It's the security issue," said Kang Xia. "Once our healthcare products go on the market, I'm afraid we'll be crazily scrambled. The security issue will be exposed at that time." "How many security guards do we need?" asked Tan Xiu. "We've calculated it. We can save a lot of people from the security guards of the God's Nectar exclusive store in every city," said Kang Xia. "But we need at least 80 to 100 people." "Got it. I'll think of a way," said Tan Xiu. "Also, I'll be visiting the major commercial districts in Shanghai in the near future. If it doesn't work, will enclose some land for large-scale construction. I happen to know some real estate developers in Shanghai. Chapter 5:19. After hanging up, Tan Xiu pondered for a moment and then searched for Jin Xinkui's number. But after hesitating for a while, he still didn't dial it. What are you going to do next? I have something to prepare, so I'm afraid I won't have time to accompany you. Tan Xiu looked at the three women. At this time, Mu Weining was in a very good mood. Even if she and Tan Xiu were only boyfriend and girlfriend in name, she believed that as long as she continued to work hard and put in the effort, it wouldn't be a problem in the future. Therefore, a charming smile hung on her beautiful face as she softly said, "Let's go back to the dorm. Let's leave the library together." All right. Tan Xiu packed up the books and put two of them back to the original bookshelf. He then picked a few more books and registered them at the registration counter before leaving the library with Mu Weining and the other two women. Their departure attracted many people's attention, but no one dared to come forward to strike up a conversation. However, Tan Xiu was worried that Lian Kong would have extreme emotions after being beaten up, so he sent the three women to the female dormitory. "We'll go up first." Jiang Fian winked at Mu Weining and then pulled Li Xinjie toward the dormitory's gate with a beaming smile. Mu Weining let out a tranquil smile as she calmly looked at Tan Xiu and said, "I know you're very busy, but you have to pay attention to your health. Call me immediately if there's anything you need me to do." "Don't worry," Tan Xiu said with a smile. "I'll take care of myself." Mu Weining suddenly stepped forward and raised her hands to tidy up Tan Xiu's untidy collar. Under the astonished expressions of many boys and girls in the surroundings, she said with a smile, "I may be your fake girlfriend now, but we still have to show some intimacy in front of others. I think that if you hug me now, it will let a lot of boys who have been harassing me know that I'm already taken." Tan Xiu hesitated for a moment. He turned his head and glanced around. A bitter smile appeared on his handsome face, but he still gently held Mu Weining in his arms. Feeling her tenderness and warmth, Tan Xiu whispered in her ear, "Is it okay now?" Mu Weining hugged Tan Xiu back. This time, she used a lot of strength and kept hugging him for more than 20 seconds. Only then did she reluctantly let go of Tan Xiu and said with a chuckle, "That's enough. Then I'm leaving." Tan Xiu turned around and waved his hand as he walked away. Mu Weining stood there with a very sweet smile on her face. There was even a trace of dimple on her face that was filled with classic beauty. In many people's eyes, her smile was filled with happiness. This made many women jealous, and many men heartbroken. However, what broke those men's hearts the most was not the hug just now, nor was it the happy smile on Mu Weining's face at this time. It was Mu Weining staring at Tan Xiu's back as he left. It was not until Tan Xiu disappeared at the end of the long path that Mu Weining showed a hint of reluctance. She turned around and walked toward the dormitory building. The #1 beauty of Shanghai University, Mu Weining, is in love with the celebrity student, Tan Xiu. After this news appeared on the forum of Shanghai University, it was as if it had grown wings. In just 1 or 2 hours, all the students of Shanghai University knew about this matter. Even many teachers, professors, and senior leaders of the university had heard about it. For a moment. In the comments section of the university forum, countless boys started to bombard Tan Xiu. Many of their words were full of insults. At the same time, Mu Weining was also scolded by countless people. The ones who scolded her were all the boys who said that they were sour grapes. Of course, many people also respected and worshipped Tan Xiu very much. All kinds of comments such as, "a handsome man and a beautiful woman," and, "a beautiful hero," also appeared one after another. As a result, after several hours of brewing, 2 factions had formed on the campus forum. One faction was the students who secretly used sock puppets to hurl abuse, while the other was the students who openly posted in support of Tan Xiu and Mu Weining. In short, the forum of Shanghai University could be said to be very lively. As one of the parties involved, Tan Xiu had already left Shanghai University and appeared in the study room of Blue Star Villa complex. He was concentrating on drawing an architectural design. Previously, he had an agreement with Jin Shinkue that he would hand over the architectural design to him after it was done. However, because of various things, coupled with the fact that he often took time to make various talismans after returning from the capital, he was still not finished. Fortunately, Jin Shinkue was not in a hurry. He had been preparing for the preliminary work. In the evening, Tan Xiu put down his brush. After a moment of contemplation, he took out his mobile phone and dialed Han Qingwu's cell phone number. At this time, Han Qingwu was in her rented house, watching the news on the university forum. Her expression was very stiff, and she had been maintaining this expression for more than half an hour. Her heart was in a mess. Even she herself didn't understand what was going on with her. Why was it that after the news of Tan Xiu and Mu Weiniing's relationship was made known to her, she felt as if something was missing in her heart? A very, very important thing. This kind of uncomfortable feeling made her at a loss for what to do and made her quite scared. Ring, 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 the ringtone of her mobile phone startled Han Qingwu. When she came back to her senses, she found that her cheeks were unexpectedly cold. She didn't know when it happened, but tears were flowing down. She grabbed her mobile phone. When Han Qingwu saw that the caller's name was Tan Xiu, she looked slightly dazed. She quickly raised her arm to wipe the tears on her face. After clearing her throat, she picked up the call and said, "I'm Han Qingwu. What's the matter?" "Teacher Han, do you have time tonight? I'll treat you to dinner." "I don't have time." Upon hearing Tan Xiu's voice, Han Qingwu's anger rushed to her heart, and her tone was also very harsh. "Teacher Han, did I provoke you recently?" Tan Xiu forced a smile. "Did I eat gunpowder or something? Why do you care?" Han Qingwu blurted out. Tan Xiu was silent for a moment. Then, he forced a smile and said, "Teacher Han, I don't know why you're in a bad mood, but I sincerely want to treat you to dinner. If you really don't have time, then forget it. I'll treat you another day. That's all for now. I'll hang up first." "Where?" Feeling that Tan Xiu was about to hang up, Han Qingwu hurriedly asked. After asking, a taste of regret arose inside her heart. "Come to the everlasting feast hall," Tan Xiu said. "I'll wait for you there." "All right." Han Qingwu replied and directly hung up. She couldn't figure out what was wrong with her. Why couldn't she control her emotions when facing Tan Xiu? Did she fall in love with him? Jealous? Han Qingwu felt that it was a bit, but not entirely. It seemed that ever since she heard Tan Xiu's zither playing and singing at the freshman welcoming party of the University of Shanghai, those images appeared in her mind. Tan Xiu's position in her heart had suddenly become important. Even when she inadvertently saw him, she could often imagine Tan Xiu's face, Tan Xiu's every move, word, and smile. Why did those images appear in my mind? I've lived for more than 20 years, and it's impossible for me to experience those scenes. I shouldn't have such memories at all. Why is that? Han Qingwu rubbed her head. Amidst the headache, she suddenly remembered that Tan Xiu said he would treat her to dinner tonight. In a flash, she bounced up from the sofa and rushed into the cloakroom at a speed beyond the limits of an ordinary person. At the everlasting feast hall, Tan Xiu was sitting quietly in the luxurious private room on the 3rd floor, drinking tea and smoking a cigarette while thinking about something. Although he had lived a fulfilling life every day in the past half a month, he still hadn't finished the business and the things he had promised others. Even though he had already finished all those things. Ring, ring, his cell phone's ringtone interrupted Tan Xiu's thoughts. When he grabbed the phone and saw an unfamiliar number from the imperial capital, he immediately raised his brows and picked it up, saying, "Tan Xiu speaking. Who's this?" "Hello, Grandmaster Tang. I'm Situ Chao. The Jin Men family, and the Li family have arrived in Shanghai. Where are you now?" "We're going to find you now." Tan Xiu thought for a moment and slowly said, "You should settle down first." I'm going to invite some people to dinner outside. After I'm done here, I'll bring the things you need to find you. How would we dare to ask Grandmaster Tang to find us? Situ Chao quickly said. How about this? Just tell us a place and we'll wait for you there. Tan Xiao hesitated for a moment and then said, then go to the Blue Star Villa complex. I'll be there as soon as possible since I'm staying in the 9th villa. All right. After hanging up the phone, Tan Xiao shook his head with a smile. He was just wondering when the three families of the Strange Doors would come to Shanghai to take their things. He didn't expect that this man would really rush to Shanghai now. However, he had something to ask of Han Qinggu. Since he had decided to invite Han Qinggu to dinner tonight, he couldn't let Han Qinggu down. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to fulfill his request. In front of the bar on the first floor. The corners of Chi Nan's mouth curled into a smile as she cheerfully greeted the guests who came and left one by one. When Han Qinggu arrived in casual attire, Chi Nan found that Han Qinggu had obviously put on some light makeup, which made her beauty more intense. Miss Han, you're here. Han Qinggu chuckled and said, Tan Xiao called me and told me to find him. He should be here already, right? The boss has arrived. He's waiting for you in the restaurant on the 3rd floor. Chi Nan smiled and said, I'll take you there. Thank you. Han Qinggu nodded and expressed her gratitude. You don't have to be so polite with me, Miss Han. You're my boss's friend, a good friend, so it's my duty to entertain you well. You're so beautiful today, Miss Han. Han Qinggu stared blankly and her pretty face slightly blushed. She recalled that she ran to the dressing table to put on makeup before going out. She almost raised her hand to cover her face. Suppressing the embarrassment inside, she squeezed out a smile and said, Thank you, Manager Chi, you're also very beautiful today. Chi Nan smiled and said, I can't. I'm too old. If I were your age, I would have definitely snatched my boss's heart from you. Thank you, Shiyu Muda Beauty, for your generous rewards and support. I was too impulsive yesterday. I shouldn't have opened a single chapter to complain, causing many brothers and sisters to be scolded by the trolls in the book review section. Today, I'll continue with the 3rd chapter. I wish brothers and sisters a happy National Day _. Chapter 520. The smile on Han Qingwu's face deepened upon hearing Chi Nan's words. Just as she was about to say some modest words, her expression suddenly froze and her footsteps came to a halt. Manager Chi, what did you say? Chi Nan said with a smile, I say, I'm too old. Is there a problem? Han Qingwu shook her head and said, Didn't you just say that you'll snatch your boss's heart from me? That's for sure, said Chi Nan with a smile. Han Qingwu slightly furrowed her brows and forced a smile. I think you're mistaken, Manager Chi Tan Xiu's heart is not with me. He already has a girlfriend, the first campus belle of Shanghai University, Mu Weining. Please don't make such a joke again in the future. I've seen Miss Mu, Miss Han, said Chi Nan with a charming smile. She's indeed a rare beauty. If I were a man, I'd definitely like such a stunning beauty. However, I don't think her position in our boss's heart is very important. I'm also very curious as to how she became our boss's girlfriend. Han Qingwu didn't want to talk about this topic anymore, but upon hearing Chi Nan's words, her heart slightly moved and she said, I don't quite understand what you mean, Manager Chi. Chi Nan meaningfully looked at Han Qingwu and smilingly said, Miss Han, since you're not an outsider, then I'll tell you a few things I've seen and thought about. I've seen a lot of women brought by our boss. Some of them are very beautiful and outstanding, such as Ouyang Lulu, the superstar Zhang Xinya, and the magnificent Tang Corporation's general manager, Kang Xia. But I don't think our boss likes them very much. He even seems to deliberately keep a distance from them. Maybe you don't know about it, but I'm surprised to find that our boss is very calm when facing them. No matter what happens, he seems to be able to deal with it with a normal mind. But there's one person who makes him very unusual. Chi Nan's words came to a halt. Who is it? Han Qinggu stared at Chi Nan with a blank expression. It's you, said Chi Nan with all seriousness. Me? Han Qinggu asked incredulously, why me? Chi Nan said, haven't you noticed? Sometimes, our boss will be very nice to you. Sometimes, he will stare at you in a daze for a few seconds. Sometimes, he would be very cold to you, as if he was rejecting you. This change in his emotions was caused by you. Han Qinggu was stunned. Although she was looking at Chi Nan, her mind was recalling all the times she had spent with Tan Xiu. She found that what Chi Nan said was true. Tang Xiu did sometimes stare at her in a daze. Sometimes, there was even a hint of tenderness in his eyes. But there were also times when he was very indifferent toward her, showing a distant and unapproachable look. In addition, his eyes would sometimes reveal a look of pain, and sometimes they would reveal anger and hatred. Why was that? Chi Nan patted Han Qingwu's shoulder and said with a smile, Miss Han, I don't know what happened between you and our boss, but you're the only woman who can make him emotionally unstable. So I congratulate you. If you can seize this opportunity, you may become our boss's wife in the future. Han Qingwu opened her mouth, wanting to explain. But she found that Chi Nan didn't give her the chance to speak and went straight upstairs. However, Chi Nan's words made her inexplicably happy, especially the word, boss's wife. It was like a curse that kept echoing in her mind. Quickly, under Chi Nan's lead, Han Qingwu went to the third floor. When she entered the door, she saw that there was only Tan Xiu in the luxurious dining room. Her expression turned a bit unnatural. Boss, Miss Han is here, Chi Nan said with a smile. Tan Xiu got up. Despite feeling a bit helpless inside, he still squeezed out a smile on his face. He put on a cordial appearance and said with a smile, I've ordered some dishes and red wine, Teacher Han. I said I'll treat you to a big meal today, so I'll definitely serve you well. After saying that, Tan Xiu pulled the chair opposite him and motioned Han Qingwu to sit down. Han Qingwu slowly turned her head and found that Chi Nan had already left and closed the door from the outside. She hesitated for a moment before she walked to the chair and sat down. Tan Xiu returned to his seat and said with a smile, Teacher Han, I found that you seem to be a lot more haggard. Did something happen? Han Qingwu shook her head. Her eyes stared straight at Tan Xiu for a while. She stared at Tan Xiu until he felt a bit uncomfortable. Then, she said, it's like a pie falling from the sky. I never thought that it would happen to me. I don't think I'll be able to eat such a big meal for no reason. Tell me, what's your wishful thinking about inviting me to a meal? Tan Xiu looked a bit embarrassed after his thoughts were exposed. He recalled the indifference and rejection he showed to Han Qingwu before. He raised his hand to touch his nose and forced a smile. You're really smart and considerate, Teacher Han. I found that you're just like the goddess of wisdom. Nothing can escape your eyes. Pfft, it was the first time for Han Qingwu to hear such mushy words coming out of Tan Xiu's mouth. She couldn't help but burst into laughter. She rolled her eyes at Tan Xiu and grunted, You're unaccountably solicitous, so you're hiding evil intentions. Tell me. Don't flatter me. I want to know your purpose. Tan Xiu clapped his hands and smilingly said, See? 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 What did I just say? You're really smart. Actually, I don't have anything big to trouble you. But I may have some urgent matters to deal with in the near future, so I'm afraid I have to ask for a leave for a few days. I hope you can approve it, Teacher Han. Ask for a leave. Han Qingwu's tone was raised as she glared at Tan Xiu and angrily said, No. Are you going to fall into your old habits again? I really do have something urgent to deal with. Tan Xiu forced a smile. Just think about it. I'm a dignified big boss, and there are a lot of things I need to deal with. I've been studying and attending classes every day for half a month, and a lot of things have been piling up. If I don't deal with them, I'll be in big trouble. Please give me a few days of leave for the sake of saving your life. I promise I won't delay my studies. Han Qingwu was silent for a while and then asked, what are you going to do when you ask for a leave? Kang Xia contacted me today. The magnificent Tang Corporation has a very important product that will be launched in the market soon, so I need to pay attention to this matter, said Tan Xiu. Also, my friend and I are investing in real estate development in Shanghai. The project there is about to start soon, so I need to finalize the final cooperation plan with her. Also, I'm afraid I have to go to the South China Sea. There's something very important that I need to deal with. The South China Sea. What are you going to do there? Asked Han Qingwu with a puzzled expression. I'm going to buy an island, said Tan Xiu. Han Qingwu rolled her eyes and snappily said, are you bragging? You want to buy an island? How can you come up with such a ridiculous excuse? I'm not joking. I'm really going to buy an island in the south of the South China Sea. It's very useful, said Tan Xiu with all seriousness. Han Qingwu stared blankly and was silent for more than 10 seconds. Then, she said, I don't have many classes recently, and I'm not feeling well and in a bad mood, so I'm going to ask for a leave for a few days. If you promise to take me with you to the South China Sea, I'll choose to believe you. What are you going to do with me? Asked Tan Xiu with a strange expression. To monitor me. Han Qingwu snorted and said, you can interpret it that way. In any case, I'm going out to relax. Just tell me if you want to take me or not. If you don't. Looking at Han Qingwu's threatening look, Tan Xiu had no other emotions except for a wry smile and helplessness inside. After thinking for a moment, he nodded and said, I can take you with me, but you have to promise me something. What is it? Han Qingwu spread out her hands and asked. If I have something to do in the future, you have to approve my leave, said Tan Xiu. You can't stop me as long as I can pass the year-end exam. Even if I don't attend classes in school for the whole semester, you can't have any opinion about it. You can't make things difficult for me in the credit evaluation. I promise. Replied Han Qingwu happily this time. Tan Xiu shook his head and forced a smile. To be honest, I'm really happy and worried to have a teacher in charge like you. Well, the food will be served soon. Let's eat and talk. Sure enough. Not long after Tan Xiu's voice faded away, the door of the dining room was knocked. As the door was pushed open, Qi Nan personally carried the plates and came in with several beautiful waiters. After putting the dishes and wine on the table, Qi Nan said with a smile, Boss, the food you ordered has been delivered. Please call me directly if you need anything else. Tan Xiu waved his hand and said, All right. Go do your thing. The food was eaten and the wine was drunk. Han Qingwu and Tan Xiu didn't chat much. Halfway through the conversation, Han Qingwu glanced at Tan Xiu and suddenly said, The campus is abuzz today. Your relationship with Mu Weining has been announced, hasn't it? Tan Xiu stared blankly for a moment before he shook his head and said, That's just a fake. I'm inexplicably famous, and many girls in the campus are showing their affection to me. Some of them even came to confess to me, making me very annoyed and vexed. Mu Weining also has the same trouble, so we discussed it and decided to pretend to be a couple to cut off other people's thoughts. Pretending to be a couple. Han Qingwu was happy inwardly, but she maintained a calm expression and said, So to say, the uproar on the campus forum is fake? That's right. Tan Xiu nodded. I received a call from my dormitory classmates and also saw the news on the campus forum. We did that hug on purpose so that others would see it. So it's like that. After learning the whole story, the depression in Han Qingwu's heart disappeared and was replaced by an inexplicable joy and joy. Sorry, there's a problem in the back end, so the update is late. Chapter 521. Blue Star Villa Complex. More than a dozen black Mercedes-Benz cars slowly stopped at the gate. After registering their information, they were allowed by the security guards to enter the villa complex. On the balcony of the third floor of Villa number 11, Yang Lu sat comfortably with a glass of red wine in his hand and a thick cigar in the corner of his mouth. Next to him were two blonde, blue-eyed, young, and beautiful girls. They snuggled up to him and from time to time showed intimate actions with him. "Sweethearts, if you serve this young master well tonight, I promise to provide for the two of you in the future. I'll let you live a good life without worrying about food and clothing." Yang Lu spat out the smoke in his mouth, reached out and hugged the blonde girl next to him, and kissed her pink little face. "Honey, I'll definitely serve you well." The blonde girl deliberately showed a shy look, but also boldly said. Yang Lu felt happy and was about to make a move to satisfy his craving. Suddenly, his ears twitched and he looked at the road under the street lamp not far away. When he saw more than a dozen black Mercedes-Benz cars slowly coming in this direction, he suddenly raised his brows. "There's a big shot." Yang Lu also understood in his heart when he saw this kind of lineup. However, he was very curious. Who would come with such fanfare so late at night? Huh? When the convoy drove past Villa number 11 and finally stopped in front of Villa number 9, Yang Lu couldn't help but roll his eyes. Although he had guessed that Tan Xiu's identity was very unusual, he didn't expect that he would play such a big lineup. Could it be that that black-hearted Tang has provoked some great big shot? Did he come here to pick a fight? Yang Lu thought darkly. In front of Villa number 9. More than a dozen black Mercedes-Benz cars stopped, and middle-aged men wearing black suits and sunglasses got out of the cars. The doors of the three Mercedes-Benz cars in the middle were opened by several middle-aged men. "That's," on the balcony of the third floor of Villa number 11, after Yang Lu saw the person coming out of the car in the middle, his eyes widened in shock. Situ Chao. The biological son of the Situ family's patriarch, Situ Boyong, had now gradually taken over the Situ family. Perhaps it wouldn't take long for him to become the patriarch of the Situ family. Why is he here? Yang Lu desperately swallowed his saliva. After sending the two blonde beauties to the bedroom, he saw the other two figures coming out of the two Mercedes-Benz. My God! I'm not dreaming, right? Jin Men Tian, the master of the Jin Men clan. And Li Yuan, head of the Li family. The two of them were prominent seniors of the strange doors. Why would they come here in person? Are they all here for Tan Xiu? Yang Li's eyeballs almost fell out of his eye sockets. Even though his identity wasn't simple, when he saw Situ Chao, Jin Men Tian, and Li Yuan, his legs went soft. Because he knew very well how terrifying the combined strength of these three people would be. That's not right. If they were looking for Tan Xiu, there's no need for them to make such a big fuss. Could it be that I guessed correctly? Did they come to look for trouble with Tan Xiu? As he thought up to there, Yang Lu immediately took out his mobile and dialed Tan Xiu's number. After the other party picked up, he lowered his voice and hurriedly said, "Tan Xiu, where are you now? What's the matter outside?" Tan Xiu's voice came from the phone. Yang Lu felt relieved and quickly said, "Tan Xiu, just stay outside. Don't ever come back." "What the hell are you doing? How did you provoke the Situ family, the Jin Men clan, and the Li family at the same time? These three families can hold up half of the sky in the entire strange doors. Listen to me and quickly leave. Hide as far as you can and don't ever come back." On the third floor of the everlasting feast hall, a strange expression appeared on Tan Xiu's face. He didn't expect that Yang Lu would call him and unexpectedly say such words. It was a misunderstanding. A smile appeared on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth as he said, "I'll give you half the price if you want to worship me as your master. Make money well and I'll be waiting for you to take 5 billion yuan to worship me as your master." Having said that, Tan Xiu directly hung up the phone. Yang Lu was dumbfounded. Never in his dreams did he expect that not only did Tan Xiu ignore his advice, but he even talked about worshipping him as a master. What's going on here? Can't he see that I'm doing this out of good intentions? He thought about it. Yang Lu decided to go to Villa number 9 himself. Even if Tan Xiu had provoked those 3 families, he was, after all, a member of the thief sect. Considering the face of his deceased master, they shouldn't make things difficult for him. Perhaps, he could even speak a few good words for Tan Xiu. A few minutes later, when Yang Lu neatly dressed and appeared outside the Villa number 9's courtyard, he was stopped by 4 stalwart men. "Who are you?" one of them coldly asked. "I live in Villa number 11, a neighbor of this family," said Yang Lu. The big man said, "What's the matter? If there's nothing else, I hope you can leave." Yang Lu raised his hand and quickly made a few gestures. The 4 men's complexion slightly changed as he walked into the courtyard and went straight to the villa's hall. When he saw the 2 nannies of Tan Xiu's house pouring tea for Situ Chao, Jin Men Tian, and Li Yuan, he suddenly looked dazed. "Oh, little Lu from the thief sect is unexpectedly here. Am I seeing things?" Situ Chao said with a smile after seeing Yang Lu. Yang Lu stepped forward and said with a flattering smile, "Uncle Chao, you must be joking. I just found out that you 3 seniors came to my neighbor's house, so I came to greet you." "You are? You and Master Tang are neighbors?" Situ Chao was surprised. "Master Tang?" Yang Lu felt that his brain couldn't process the situation as he asked with a blank expression, "Uncle Chao, the Master Tang you mentioned is Tan Xiu?" "That's right," said Situ Chao. Yang Li's lips squirmed a few times as he reluctantly digested the address. Then, he said, "I live in Villa number 11 next door. I'm indeed Tang. Master Tang's neighbor. Also, our relationship is quite good." At this moment, Yang Li's heart was collapsing. He originally thought that Situ Chao and the others were looking for trouble with Tan Xiu. He even kindly called Tan Xiu to remind him not to meet them. It turned out that he was mistaken. Situ Chao and the others were not looking for trouble with Tan Xiu. It should be regarded as a visit. What a disgrace. Situ Chao slowly nodded and said, "Yang Lu, we came here to see Master Tang. He's having a meal with his friends outside and can't come back, so we're waiting for him here. You've seen us now, so if there's nothing else, you can go back first." Yang Lu quickly said, "Uncle Chao, Grandpa Jin Men, Grandpa Li, if you don't mind, why don't you take the opportunity while Master Tang hasn't come back yet?" His words came to an abrupt halt as he suddenly remembered that there were 2 scantily clad, blonde, and blue-eyed foreign girls in his house. It would be shameful if they were to see him. Situ Chao waved his hand and said, "No need. We'll wait for him here. You go ahead with your business." Yang Lu quickly said, Yes. I won't disturb you then. If there's anything you need, just send someone to the next building number 11 to call me. I'll be there at any time." Having said that, he immediately left the hall. Jin Men Tian watched Yang Lu leave. He shook his head and smilingly said, "It's supposed to be a joyous occasion for the Steel sect to have such an outstanding junior. But it's a pity that the fate of that old bastard 3 Hands isn't good and he already met the King of Hell." The rest of the Steel sect's good-for-nothings didn't hesitate to shed all pretense of cordiality in order to get the treasures left by that old bastard 3 Hands. What a pity. The Steel sect order was lost. If it was handed over to this Yang Lu, maybe he could rebuild the Steel sect. Situ Chao lightly smiled and said, "Uncle Jin Men, you probably don't know about it yet. He actually has the Steel sect order in his hands, but he was disheartened by the other martial brothers of the Steel sect. Not only did he cut off contact with them, but he also stayed abroad all year round. Even I didn't expect that he would return to China and even live here." Jin Men Tian was surprised and asked, "Is he really willing to give up? Will the Steel sect's inheritance be broken just like that?" Situ Chao shook his head and said, "The Steel sect's inheritance will never be broken as long as the Steel sect's people are still alive. It's just that I think it's better if they don't rebuild the sect." Otherwise, I'm afraid that Yang Lu will be killed by him sooner or later given his eldest senior brother's character. That's right. Jin Men Tian nodded. 10 p.m. Tan Xiu sent Han Qinggu back to her residence and repeatedly promised that he would take her with him to the South China Sea. Only then did he ask for a few days of leave. He hurried back to Southgate Town, but before he arrived at his villa, Yang Lu blocked him outside the courtyard of Villa number 11. You're amazing, Grandmaster Tang. Yang Lu leaned on the door and said to Tan Xiu with a smile yet not a smile. Tan Xiu rolled his eyes and snappily said, spit it out if you have something to say. Don't talk nonsense with a strange tone. Yang Lu pursed his lips and then asked, the three big families of the strange doors, the Situ family, the Jin Men family, and the Li family, unexpectedly came all the way to Shanghai to visit you in the Blue Star Villa complex. I'm really curious. What kind of deceitful methods did you use to make them look so respectful when they mention you? Swindling isn't appropriate to describe it. Tan Xiu said with a smile. I think it's correct for you to use genuine ability. Otherwise, do you think those big figures of the strange doors are fools? Yang Lu thought for a while before he nodded and said, you're right. But you haven't answered me yet. Who are you exactly? I told you, I'm just a student, Tan Xiu said with a smile. Tan Xiu, if you don't tell me personally, I'll investigate it myself. Yang Lu angrily said. I'm very good at investigating intelligence, you know. Go. Tan Xiu gave him a pondering smile and strode toward his home. Chapter 522. The faint fragrance of tea permeated the air and the old laughter was full of energy. When Tan Xiu entered the villa's door, he heard Jin Men Tian's carefree laughter. I'm sorry to have kept you waiting for a long time. Tan Xiu walked toward the trio and said with a smile. Situ Chao was the first to stand up and said with a smile, you're too polite, Grandmaster Tang. It's rude of us to disturb you so late at night. Don't call me Grandmaster Tang anymore. Tan Xiu waved and said, just call me by my name. That's right, please wait here. I've prepared your things and will go upstairs to get them for you. A few minutes later. After putting on an act, Tan Xiu came downstairs with 3 black suitcases. After handing them to the trio, he said with a smile, check them. The trio exchanged glances and opened their suitcases. After checking them, they closed the suitcases with satisfaction. Tan Xiu, these evil-repelling talismans will play a vital role in our exploration of the ancient tomb in the future. Jin Men Tian said with a smile. I won't say thank you words, but do remember to contact me if you have the opportunity to go to the northwest later. My Li family is located in the Miao region, Tan Xiu. Do remember to contact me as soon as you go there, said Li Yuan with a serious expression. Then I'll thank the 2 elders in advance, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Maybe I'll really disturb you in the future. After exchanging greetings, Tan Xiu sent the trio away. As the villa became quiet, he silently calculated the funds he had now. There was a total of 65 billion yuan. With such a huge amount, Tan Xiu had already thought about how to invest it, so he picked up his mobile and dialed Jin Xinkui's number. Brother Tang, I finally got your call. I've been looking forward to the stars and the moon these days, hoping that you can bring me the good news about the architectural design as soon as possible. Jin Xinkui's voice came out of the phone. I'm free tomorrow, Brother Jin. Shall we meet in the morning? Tan Xiu said with a smile. I have other projects aside from our project. I hope we can cooperate. There are other projects? Jin Xinkui was surprised. Brother Tang, can't you reveal a little bit in advance? Let me be mentally prepared in advance. I'm going to move the magnificent Tang Corporation's HQ to Shanghai, said Tan Xiu. It would be best if he could find a suitable office building. If we can't find it, I'm afraid we'll have to invest a huge amount of money. Jin Xinkui was startled and said, I understand, Brother Tang. We'll discuss this matter tomorrow morning. All right. Tan Xiao agreed and hung up after setting up a meeting place with Jin Xinkue. Ring, ring, ring. Less than a minute after Tan Xiao hung up the phone, his phone rang. When he took out his mobile and saw that it was Long Zhengyu, he was about to answer it when his expression slightly moved and he indifferently said, "Come out. Don't be sneaky. Hee, Master Tang is really something. I thought that I would not be discovered by anyone when I appeared here. I didn't expect that you would still be able to detect me. Those three families didn't notice me at all." Yang Lu said with a grin. They may be people from the occult sect, but how could their concealment methods be compared with your thief sex people? Tan Xiao said. You've seen what you should see and heard what you should hear. I still have other things to do, so shouldn't you go back and rest? Don't mind me, I still have 2 questions. Yang Lu quickly said. Speak. Tan Xiao said lightly. Yang Lu approached Tan Xiao and curiously asked, Tan Xiao, what kind of deal did you make with those 3 families? Don't tell me it's like what Jin Men Tian said, that it's the evil repelling talisman. It's the evil repelling talisman, said Tan Xiao. I can refine the evil repelling talisman, and they happen to need it, so it's a mutually beneficial deal for both sides. It's true. Yang Lu was shocked. You can actually refine the evil repelling talisman. You're really a godly person. Tell me the second question. Tan Xiao said. Do you want to answer the phone first? Yang Lu said. I can ask my second question later. Tan Xiao shook his head and said, I need to send you away first, then I'll answer the phone. Speak. Don't waste my time. All right. Yang Lu forced a smile. You just said on the phone that you want to move the magnificent Tang Corporation to Shanghai. Are you the big boss of the magnificent Tang Corporation? That's right. Tan Xiao directly admitted it. Yang Lu raised his thumbs up and praised, I knew that your identity is definitely not simple, but I didn't expect you to be this powerful. You must know that the magnificent Tang Corporation's business. Tan Xiao raised his hand to interrupt him and said with all seriousness, you don't need to flatter me. I still have something to do, so can you leave now? Yang Lu stared blankly and forced a smile, all right. I'll go now, all right? You're really a busy man. Tan Xiao watched the resentful expression on Yang Li's face as he left. Through his spiritual sense, he monitored him until he returned to Villa number 11. Only then did he feel a bit relieved. To be honest, he admired Yang Lu from the bottom of his heart. He was unexpectedly able to sneak into his villa without anyone noticing and even lurk for such a long time. Long Zhengyu, why did you call me so late? Is something the matter? Tan Xiao called Long Zhengyu and asked directly. Long Zhengyu hurriedly said, Tan Xiao, there was a serious landslide in the Walled Hill Village project. At present, a total of 12 people were killed or injured in the landslide, and more than 20 people are missing. Tan Xiao's complexion changed as he asked in a deep voice, what exactly happened? Long Zhengyu said with a bitter expression, do you remember what I told you before? There was a landslide in Walled Hill Village before. But because the accident was very small, I didn't take it seriously at that time. I thought that the ancient tomb was just an abandoned one that could be filled with soil. Who would have thought that there was a huge space below? I suspect that the empty tomb was just a camouflage, and the real ancient tomb is below. You mean, the landslide was caused by the existence of the ancient tomb? Tan Xiao was astonished. Yes, it was caused by the ancient tomb, said Long Zhengyu. Tan Xiao was silent for a moment before he seriously said, how did you deal with the accident scene? I've called the police, and the firefighters are now doing their best to search and rescue the missing workers. Also, the project there has been completely stopped, so I'm afraid it will be delayed for some time. Remember, saving people is the first priority, said Tan Xiao with a deep voice. I'll immediately rush back to Star City. Let's talk about it when we meet. All right. Long Zhengyu quickly agreed. Tan Xiao came to the second floor. He picked up a few clean clothes and stuffed them into his interspatial ring. After feeding the fierce beast in the study, he quickly left the house. However, just as he walked a few steps away, he recalled something. When he passed by Villa number 11, he shouted, "Yang Lu, come out." Shortly after, Yang Li's bare upper body appeared in Tan Xiu's line of sight. "What?" Tan Xiu asked. "You may be a member of the thief sect, but you also belong to the occult sect. Have you ever explored ancient tombs?" Yang Lu sneered. "Grandmaster Tang, are you kidding me? The members of the Steel sect are all great masters in tomb robbing and treasure hunting. I'm only 26 years old this year, but the number of ancient tombs I've explored is definitely more than 3 digits. That's right, the gold, silver, and jewels you stole from me were obtained from an ancient tomb. If that's the case, then come with me." Tan Xiu nodded. "Where are we going?" Yang Lu asked doubtfully. "Shuangqing Province, Star City," Tan Xiu said. Yang Lu was surprised. "An ancient tomb has been found in Star City, right?" "Yes, an ancient tomb has been found there. Moreover, it's under my construction site," Tan Xiu said. "It's collapsed now, causing many casualties and missing people. Come with me and follow me to the tomb to see the situation." Yang Lu was silent for a moment and asked, "How will we divide the treasures we've explored?" "I'll take 90%, and you take 10%, Tan Xiu said. "I'll give you 10%. Yang Lu angrily said, "Surnamed Tang, you're too black-hearted. Go or not?" Tan Xiu said indifferently. Yang Lu was speechless. He looked at Tan Xiu, who was about to leave, and hurriedly said, Don't. You're the master. Whatever you say, okay. Wait a minute. I still have two beauties at home. I'll go greet them and pack up my things. 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes. Remember to drive." A smile outlined on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth as he reminded Yang Li's back. 4:00 in the morning. 2 SUVs rushed to Star City. This time, Tan Xiu not only brought Yang Lu, but also 4 experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall. From far away, Tan Xiu could see the brightly lit scene of Walled Hill Village's construction site. Many fire trucks and firefighters were working overnight to save people. "Tan Xiu, why did you bring me here?" Yang Lu, who was in the driver's seat, had a curious expression. "This is Walled Hill Village, a project being developed by the Long family in Star City," Tan Xiu said. "It's my property after the construction is completed, so I'm also responsible for the situation here. The ancient tomb we need to explore is under the construction site. It collapsed because of the existence of the ancient tomb?" Yang Lu was astonished. "That's right," Tan Xiu said. Soon after, the 2 cars arrived at a parking lot. Tan Xiu, Yang Lu, and the 4 experts quickly approached it. Long Zhengyu, who had received Tan Xiu's call, quickly came over with his 2 confidants. "What's the situation now?" asked Tan Xiu directly. 22 are injured, 6 are dead, and only 7 are missing," Long Zhengyu said with a bitter expression. "If my guess is correct, I'm afraid those 7 don't have much hope of survival," Tan Xiu said resolutely and decisively. "Find them. We must find them all. If they're dead, we must see their corpses. Even if there's only a glimmer of hope, we must not give up. Thank you, brothers and sisters of the 3,000 Great Daos, Unique Ones, 52 Kai Kai, Silent Floating Cloud, and the others for your generous rewards and support. The monthly tickets for the 11th month will be doubled. Brothers and sisters, work hard and throw the monthly tickets. Today, I'll continue reading 3 chapters. Chapter 523. Long Zhengyu solemnly nodded and said, "I've already given the order." Aside from hundreds of workers and dozens of firefighters on the construction site, the city police and our Long family security guards are also doing their best to search. You can rest assured that we'll find the missing workers even if we have to turn over every inch of the land. Let's go and help. Tan Xiu patted Long Zhengyu's shoulder and strode toward the construction site. The moment he stepped into the site, he had already released his spiritual sense to cover a radius of 200 to 300 square meters. At this moment, he had already found 2 corpses and 4 workers who were still alive under the rubble. However, 2 of the 4 workers were seriously injured. If he didn't rescue them in time, they wouldn't be able to live for more than a few hours. At the same time, Tan Xiu also found a stair-shaped hole under the ruins. Tens of meters below the hole, there were several doors. Even his spiritual sense couldn't probe the innermost door. An array. Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and quickly came to the ruins. He pointed down and said in a deep voice, "Zhengyu, immediately send someone to dig this place. Remember to be very careful. If I'm not mistaken, there should be trapped workers down there." Long Zhenyu stared blankly and quickly crouched on the ground to listen. He then asked with a puzzled expression, "How come I don't hear anything?" "My hearing is several times better than ordinary people," said Tan Xiu lightly. Long Zhenyu pondered for a moment. Due to his absolute trust in Tan Xiu, he immediately called more than a dozen workers and several firefighters to start digging the waste above. Slow down. Tan Xiu didn't stay idle either. He took a pair of gloves and began to move the steel and cement. Even Yang Lu and the 4 experts from the Everlasting Feast Hall also joined in. 10 minutes later. A worker shouted, "Boss, these steel and cement bars are pressed down by that big rock. We can't move them without a crane. If we don't move them, we won't be able to carry out the cleaning work." Long Zhenyu frowned, a troubled expression on his face. It was unrealistic to call a crane at this time. The scene here was so chaotic that even using a crane would be very troublesome. Tan Xiu said, "Get out of the way. I'll move it." The worker said angrily, "Don't mess around. This stone is at least 400 or 500 pounds. Even a few adult men can't move it. Moreover, even if a few people were to move it at the same time, they would still need to clear up the surrounding things, which would waste time. So, they might not be able to move it." Tan Xiu knew that the worker was right. The environment here was too bad. A slight carelessness could cause a second collapse, and the people above could be injured. If it was an ordinary person, perhaps 3 or 4 strong men would really have a hard time moving that stone out. However, was he an ordinary person? Tan Xiu directly pushed the worker away and shouted in a deep voice, "Long Zhenyu, tell the others to retreat. Clear a space for me." Hearing this, Long Zhenyu immediately followed Tan Xiu's instructions. Immediately after, Tan Xiu stood in the deep pit and looked at the half-exposed boulder beside his feet. He hugged it with both hands and took a deep breath. What is he doing? Is he going to move that stone out alone? Is this young man stupid? Does he think he's a Hercules? He's overestimating himself. If he can move that big rock out, I'll eat that big rock. Alas, how could Chief Long have such a friend? Really, the discussions around them were not concealed at all. At this time, even Yang Lu showed a disdainful look, secretly despising Tan Xiu for being too disgraceful. Even if Tan Xiu's skill was better, did he really think that his strength was great? Overestimating himself. Yang Lu muttered in his heart. However, Tang Xiu didn't pay attention to the comments around him. Before he exerted his strength, he easily moved the boulder that still had half of his body buried inside. However, in order not to be so eye-catching, he pretended to use all his strength to move the stone out with difficulty. Hiss! Yang Lu watched Tan Xiu move the boulder out, his eyeballs almost fell out of his eye sockets. Although he had a strong mind, he still could not help but gasp. And the surrounding workers, firefighters, and others who were just talking with disdain and sarcasm, were all dumbfounded as if they were petrified. After a while, when Tan Xiu had thrown the stone out of the deep pit, they woke up one by one as if waking up from a dream. Oh my God! What did I just see? Is this Superman? A 400 or 500 kilograms big stone, he actually moved it out alone. God! A 400 or 500 kilograms big stone, several people may not be able to move it, not to mention that half of the stone was buried in the soil. How could he move it? This is simply inhuman. Too terrifying. Long Zhengyu gave a thumbs up to Tan Xiu and then shouted in a deep voice, "Don't just stand there and do nothing. Hurry up and dig down. I think I heard a sound below, which means we're digging in the right place. Also, be careful not to cause a second collapse." Understood. The surrounding people looked at Tan Xiu in horror and shouted in unison. Time fleeted by. Half an hour later, dozens of people worked together and dug down 2 or 3 meters. Finally, they saw a hand raised up from the hole below. The hand was stained with blood, accompanied by shouts of "Help! Someone is still alive!" A worker shouted excitedly. Immediately after, everyone became more energetic and finally spent a great deal of effort to successfully rescue the 2 seriously injured workers inside. Tan Xiu even personally treated the 2. Even if the medical facilities were limited, Tan Xiu had already saved their lives. As the hospital's paramedics took the 2 seriously injured workers away, Long Zhengyu finally found the time to give a thumbs up to Tan Xiu and said, "Brother Tang, I know you're amazing. I believe in you. You have good hearing, so why don't you listen again and see if there are any other workers under the ground crying for help?" "All right," Tan Xiu replied. After pretending for a few minutes, he pointed to another place dozens of meters away and said, "There are people down there. They should still be alive." Long Zhengyu was overjoyed and shouted, "Come on, dig and save them." Now, everyone was convinced by Tan Xiu. Under Long Zhengyu's order, dozens of people began to dig and finally spent more than half an hour to successfully rescue the 2 people inside. "Zhengyu, you said the number of missing people is 7? Tang Xiu released his spiritual sense and carefully searched every place. After searching every crack leading to the bottom, he still only found 4 people who were alive and 2 who were already dead. "Yes, it's really 7 people." Long Zhengyu nodded. Tan Xiu's brows deeply furrowed because he really couldn't find where the 7th person had gone. In other words, there were only 2 possibilities at present. The first one was that the number of missing people was wrong and there were actually only 6 people buried under the ground. The second one was that one person was buried in the soil and didn't reveal a crack outside. A few minutes later, Tan Xiu walked around and randomly picked a few places to let everyone start digging. One of them was the place where the 2 bodies were buried. He then took Yang Lu and began to dig above the entrance of the ancient tomb. At the first glimmer of dawn, the 2 corpses were dug out. "Chief Long, we found them. We found them." A middle-aged man who looked like a leader ran into the ruins while panting and shouted. Long Zhengyu led everyone to find the 7th missing worker. Upon hearing the middle-aged man's shout, he immediately asked loudly, "What do you mean?" The middle-aged man hurriedly said, "The 7th missing person is Li Quan. He skipped work and went out to drink. He just came back drunk. He's now sleeping in the ditch near the shed." "Bastard!" Long Zhengyu flew into a rage and angrily cursed. Tan Xiu also heard the middle-aged man's words at this time. A wry smile appeared on his face as he walked to Long Zhengyu's side and said, "Zhengyu, since all the missing people have been found, tell the police and firefighters to leave. Also, tell all the workers to go back and rest." Long Zhengyu nodded without a word. After the tossing and turning, the police and firefighters left one after another, as well as the workers withdrew from the construction site. However, under Tan Xiu's quiet instructions, the dozens of security guards of the Long Group did not leave. Instead, they blocked the collapsed construction site and prohibited anyone from entering. "What's the meaning of this, Brother Tang?" Long Zhengyu came to Tan Xiu's side and looked at Tan Xiu, Yang Lu, and the 4 experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall who were still digging the ruins. A strange expression immediately appeared on his face. "I suspect that the entrance to the ancient tomb is down there. Since the collapse happened, I want to go down and see what kind of ancient tomb it is, said Tan Xiu. Long Zhengyu was shaken inwardly and hastily said in horror, Don't do anything stupid. You'll be trapped down there in case there's a second collapse. Don't worry. Tan Xiu said with a smile. I know what I'm capable of. I won't go down there and risk my life if I don't have the ability. Also, he's Yang Lu, a friend of mine. He has studied a lot of ancient tombs. I'll let him go with me, so you can rest assured. Long Zhengyu hesitated for a moment before he gritted his teeth and said, I'll go with you. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, The most important thing for you now is not to go with me, but to appease the workers. Then go to the hospital to visit the wounded and comfort their families. As for the dead workers, give them heavy compensation. Take care of their families. Then, what if? Long Zhengyu hesitated. There's no if. Tan Xiu waved his hand and said, Don't tell me you don't believe in my ability. Long Zhengyu thought about it and felt that he should indeed appear in the hospital to deal with the aftermath. Therefore, he nodded and told Tan Xiu to be careful before he left the Walled Hill village construction site. Chapter 524. A red sun rose from the east, dispersing a lot of the cold air of the morning. After continuous excavation, the entrance of the ancient tomb finally appeared in front of everyone. Yang Lu obviously had a deep understanding of architectural structure. After his judgment, he determined that the node that caused the collapse was the entrance of this ancient tomb. Are you sure? Asked Tan Xiu curiously. It should be correct, said Yang Lu seriously. Originally, there should be a fake tomb above, just to deceive people. Inside the fake tomb, there should be a steel casting support pole that propped up the space of the fake tomb. As a result, when the construction was carried out above, it caused the fake tomb to collapse. Eventually, the supporting strength of the upper room of the staircase entrance weakened, causing the collapse. Who built a tomb here? Tan Xiu was puzzled. Who built a tomb here and even used a fake tomb to deceive people? There are many kinds of ancient tombs, such as a tomb within a tomb, a serial tomb, a blindfold tomb, and so on, said Yang Lu. This tomb should be a blindfold tomb. Someone didn't want the real ancient tomb to be excavated, so they used a blindfold tomb. However, just looking at the width and height of the staircase, I'm afraid that the tomb below is a very large project. The deceased who can have such an ancient tomb are definitely nobles, generals, and so on. Nobles, generals, and so on. A disdainful look flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes. How could the tombs of nobles, generals, and so on have an array that could isolate the probing of divine sense? Let's go. Let's go down and have a look. Tang Xiu walked down step by step along the stairs that had been cleared. A few minutes later, he appeared in front of the first door with Yang Lu. Hiss, Yang Lu raised his hand and touched the 2-meter-high stone door. He couldn't help but suck in a cold breath. His expression was full of disbelief. What's wrong? Asked Tan Xiu with a frown. Yang Lu pointed to the stone door and said with a trembling voice, Tang. Brother Tan Xiu, this stone door is a whole piece of diamond. God! I must be dreaming, because how could there be such a big piece of diamond in this world? And the most important thing is that this stone door was obviously cast by someone. Tan Xiu looked at the carved dragon, phoenix, and qilin patterns. Lifelike images of dragons, phoenixes, qilins, and other divine beasts looked as if they could rush out at any time. He understood Yang Li's shock. It was not difficult to carve patterns on diamond, but this ancient tomb did not exist in the current era. It was an ancient tomb. How did the ancient people do it? In addition, there was such a large piece of diamond, which was beyond Yang Li's understanding. Is there a way to open this door? This was what Tan Xiu was most concerned about. With his current strength, it would be very difficult for him to directly destroy this door. Even if he could, he wouldn't dare to try. If he caused a cave-in, it would be difficult for him to escape even if he was powerful. After calming down from the shock, Yang Li's eyes shone with a scorching light. He shook his head and said, "I'm not sure yet. I need to study it." Tan Xiu urged, "We don't have much time, let's hurry up." Yang Lu asked in surprise, "Aren't there already guards outside?" "There should be plenty of time." "The news about this ancient tomb should have been exposed," said Tan Xiu lightly. "It's just that the State Department and the archaeologists haven't arrived yet." "Once they arrive, what do you think we can get?" Yang Lu was startled and hurriedly said, "You're right, brother Tan Xiu. Let's not talk about anything else, just this diamond cast door alone is something we must take away. It's money, an inexhaustible amount of money. As long as we take this door away, we can get rich overnight and become super rich." "You're really ignorant." Tan Xiu secretly sighed inwardly. He no longer paid attention to Yang Lu and continued to study the stone door. To Tan Xiu's surprise, he couldn't find a way to open this stone door even after studying it. But Yang Lu, after studying it for a while, was able to make the stone door slowly open without him finding anything. "How did you do it?" Yang Lu proudly smiled and said, "It's an ancestral secret. Forgive me for not being able to tell you. But if you want to know, I can." His proud smile froze and his voice abruptly stopped before he could finish speaking. His eyes stared blankly at the retracting stone door on both sides, and his eyeballs nearly popped out of their sockets. "Brother Tan Xiu, can you pinch me to make me feel whether I'm dreaming or not? In this world, a diamond cast door is unexpectedly more than 2 meters thick. This is too terrifying." Tan Xiu helplessly shook his head. He was too lazy to pay attention to this inexperienced person. He stepped into the door and walked down the stairs again. The second door was still opened by Yang Lu. Although this door was no longer cast from diamond, it didn't shock Yang Lu, but Tan Xiu was surprised. It was because this door was cast from millennium mysterious iron, and its hardness was more than that of the first door. "Why is it another door?" Yang Lu frowned and looked at the third door blocking the way. A helpless look was revealed in his eyes. When he wanted to reach out to touch the door, Tan Xiu directly stopped him. "Don't touch this door." "Why?" Yang Lu looked puzzled. Tan Xiu didn't explain. His eyes shone brightly as he looked at the array patterns on the door. In just a few seconds, he was surprised to find that there were 3 kinds of arrays engraved on the door. One of them was a spirit-gathering array, another was an offensive array, and the last one was a defensive array. The 3 arrays complemented each other and combined with each other, eventually forming a magical array that could gather spiritual power and defend. However, Tan Xiu, whose attainments in arrays had long reached the pinnacle, revealed a smile. His fingers constantly pinched strange seals and shot them into the array of the door in a trajectory that was invisible to the naked eye. Boom! A tremor came from the staircase space as though it was a sign of collapse. However, just as Yang Lu and the 4 experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall looked alarmed and frightened, Tan Xiu shouted and opened his hands, causing the door in front of him to slowly open after a layer of dust fell. "The 4 of you stay here. Don't let anyone come in without my order," said Tan Xiu in a deep voice after putting down his arms. "Understood." The 4 immediately answered. Tan Xiu strode into the door and saw an empty hall in front of him. Apart from the hundreds of egg-sized luminous pearls inlaid on the ceiling of the hall, there was only a rectangular staircase in the middle. To Tan Xiu's surprise, the spiritual qi concentration in this space was extremely high, at least dozens of times higher than the spiritual qi concentration outside. Just a gentle breath could make people feel the sweat pores all over their body open, making them feel comfortable all over. "It feels so comfortable to be here." Yang Lu, who was closely following behind Tan Xiu, said as he looked around. Tan Xiu strode to the rectangular staircase in the middle. The staircase was 1 meter high, 1 meter wide, and 2 meters long, and was covered with a layer of yellow silk cloth. However, with his keen eyesight, Tan Xiu could tell at a glance that this layer of yellow silk cloth was unusual. It was as though flowing water was flowing on the silk cloth. The luster was invisible to the naked eye, but it could be clearly observed with spiritual sense. In Tan Xiu's view, this silk cloth was at least made into a magic tool. Yang Lu, stand on it. Tan Xiu retracted his gaze as he looked at Yang Lu and said in a deep voice. Yang Lu stared blankly and asked with a puzzled expression, stand on this platform? What for? Tan Xiu lightly said, I'll be cannon fodder. I need to figure out what the mystery is on it. Yang Lu rolled his eyes and snappily said, I say, Tan Xiu, are you kidding me? What mystery can this broken platform have? After saying that, with a disdainful expression, he stepped onto the platform. Buzz, a mysterious aura came out from the silk cloth, and the ripples that were originally invisible to the naked eye also rippled out layer by layer. With the eruption of a dazzling white light, Yang Li's figure directly disappeared from the platform. Tan Xiu's complexion changed. A firm look appeared on his face as he then stepped onto the platform and suddenly disappeared in the dazzling white light. The next moment, he appeared in an empty space. This space was very dark, and it was very difficult for ordinary people to see things a few meters away from them. However, Tan Xiu's eyesight was extremely amazing, and he could clearly see the scene within 100 meters. Where is this? What the hell happened? Yang Lu raised his hand and grabbed around. Then, he turned to look at Tan Xiu who appeared out of thin air in front of him. What made him collapse the most was that he could barely see Tan Xiu's face, as well as the place a few meters behind Tan Xiu. I don't know. Tan Xiu replied. His eyes glanced around. It was dark here, and all around was a desolate black land. The most important thing was that there was no trace of spiritual qi here, only a weak airflow that made breathing difficult. Yang Li's complexion changed. He quickly grabbed the backpack he was carrying and took out a night vision goggles from it. After putting them on, he looked into the distance. A few seconds later, his mouth opened wide and his eyes were filled with disbelief. With a surprised expression, Tang Xiu looked at Yang Lu and then quickly took off the man's night vision goggles. After putting them on, his pupils suddenly contracted and his heartbeat sped up a few beats out of the blue. He could clearly see the vague outline of a mountain a kilometer away. There was a layer of red halo on the mountain-shaped corridor, as though the whole mountain was burning. Behind him, there was a sword-shaped object that pierced through the clouds. Tang! Brother Tan Xiu, did we bump into ghosts? Why do I feel that this place is so gloomy? Even breathing is a bit difficult. Yang Li's lips trembled a few times. He gulped down his saliva with a frightened face and asked in a trembling voice. We didn't bump into any ghosts. We were teleported to a magical place by the teleportation array. Tan Xiu said in a deep voice. It's very interesting. If my guess is correct, this place is the real burial place of the ancient tomb. Teleportation array. Ancient tomb. Yang Lu was confused and murmured in a low voice after a confused look appeared in his eyes. Third watch, I beg for the monthly vote. Chapter 525. Tan Xiu didn't explain it to Yang Lu because he knew that even if he wasted his breath to explain, it would be very difficult for Yang Lu to understand it. It would be very difficult for him to accept it for a while. Staring at the mountain corridor, Tan Xiu silently pondered for a moment. Then, he reached out to grab Yang Li's arm and sprinted toward that direction at lightning speed. Cough, slow down. Yang Lu, who was being carried by Tan Xiu, felt the whistling sound of the wind blowing past his ears. His heart was in his throat. At this moment, Tan Xiu's speed made him reveal an expression as if he had seen a ghost. He never dreamed that someone could run at such an incredible speed. Tang Xiu directly ignored Yang Li's panicked expression. The distance seemed to be only about a kilometer, but it took him more than half an hour to reach it. His toes touched the ground as he sprinted for hundreds of kilometers before he finally arrived in front of the burning mountain. The blazing temperature made Yang Lu sweat profusely. If he wasn't grabbed by Tan Xiu, he would have turned around and fled. Stand here and wait. Tan Xiu put down Yang Lu and locked his eyes on the straight ice crystal between the mountains. The ice crystal was like a dividing line that cut the whole burning mountain into two halves. The width was very narrow, about 5 meters or so. As the distance got closer, one could see that the ice crystal was actually an ice ladder that exuded a chill. It was extremely steep and dangerous. Tan Xiu, come back quickly. Don't court death. Yang Lu was aghast as he watched Tan Xiu appear under the ice ladder. A worried look flashed in his eyes. After rushing forward for 7 or 8 steps, the intense temperature made him unable to bear it and forced him to stop and retreat for tens of meters. As a member of the occult sect, Yang Lu naturally knew that some things that went against the common sense of science actually existed in this world. But he never thought that there would be such a magical thing in this world. Since he came to this space, everything he saw made him feel that it was a fantasy. Also, Tan Xiu's performance, his miraculous methods, and his lightning-fast speed had shocked him to the point where it was difficult for him to recover. In particular, Tan Xiu seemed to have guessed that he would be teleported out if he stood on the platform covered with silk. Therefore, Yang Lu was now very curious about who Tan Xiu was. What kind of mysterious identity did he have? Suddenly, Yang Li's complexion abruptly changed, and his eyes widened so much that his eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. Because Tan Xiu had thrown the night vision goggles to him when he left, he could clearly see that Tan Xiu was climbing up the ice crystal-like stairs in the middle of the burning mountain at an extremely fast speed. Could it be that the high temperature has no effect on him? Also, isn't he afraid of slipping and falling to his death? At this moment, Tan Xiu had no idea that Yang Lu was lost in his thoughts. He was moving very fast, stepping on the ice with the tips of his toes, and climbing up. His body was constantly covered by a thin layer of ice, and then it melted at an extremely fast speed. The alternating cold and hot made him feel indescribably uncomfortable at the moment. Time flew by. Yang Lu, who was standing far away, could not bear the heat anymore and retreated far away. And Tan Xiu, who was constantly climbing, was already close to the top. The higher he climbed, the faster the alternating heat and coldness changed, and the more intense the feeling became. There was even a kind of invisible pressure that came with it. Even his bones were creaking from the pressure, and his internal organs felt like they were being squeezed into a ball. Go! The star power in Tan Xiu's body had been surging, running through his meridians. Just when he was about to reach his limit, he suddenly felt that his body was light, and he had already sprinted to the top of the mountain. With the help of the inertia, he even sprinted up dozens of meters. Bang! Tan Xiu landed on the ice on the top of the mountain. When he saw the scene in front of him clearly, he couldn't help but gasp, even though he was once a supreme in the deity realm. The Yin-Yang Lake? How can there be a Yin-Yang Lake on Earth? According to countless ancient books in the deity realm, the Yin-Yang Lake is the lake that the supreme in the deity realm can bathe in when he becomes a true god. When the deity takes a bath, his body will transform from an immortal body to a divine body. In Tan Xiu's sight, the gray matter had disappeared. The real world was under the blue sky. Overlooking the wide center of the mountain, there was a big lake with a black and white yin and yang pattern. The lake was surrounded by mist, and a thick special energy was surging, like boiling water. Congratulations, the one who came later. At the center of the Yin-Yang Lake, the colorful mist solidified into a human-shaped old man. His face couldn't be seen clearly, and he was covered in the light, even if he wasn't wearing any clothes. But his voice was loud and clear, and every note seemed to knock on Tan Xiu's heart. Who are you? Tan Xiu's expression became especially cautious, his eyes staring at the old man and asking in a deep voice. The old man smiled. Don't be afraid, the one who came later. I am the deity realm's unfettered deity, but the deity realm blocked my path. I had no choice but to burn my epic fate wheel and use the Yin-Yang Lake Sun Lake Divinity Vein to break through the deity realm's barrier and come to the ancestral star. But the ancestral star has changed greatly and is no longer as magnificent as it used to be. With no other choice, I used my remnant soul to condense a puppet artifact spirit to guard the Yin-Yang Lake Sun Lake Divinity Vein forever. Tan Xiu asked in a deep voice, I know about the Yin-Yang Lake. Immortals must bathe in the lake to obtain a divine body when they ascend to the deity realm. But what does the Sun Lake Divinity Vein mean? The old man was surprised. Thou know about the Yin-Yang Lake? That shouldn't be the case. Back then, because there are no more immortals on the ancestral star, no one with profound cultivation. How do thou know about the Yin-Yang Lake? Tan Xiu was silent for a moment and then said seriously, I was once a sovereign in the deity realm, but I returned to earth by accident. The old man was enlightened and said with a smile, interesting. Thou art very interesting. Thou dost tell me the truth because thou understand that it is easy for me to search thy soul. It seems that my inheritance should not be lost. As soon as he said that, Tan Xiu's body was grabbed by a pair of invisible hands and directly smashed into the Yin-Yang Lake. As the black and white lake water boiled and rotated, Tan Xiu was directly sucked into the lake. Arg! The heart-wrenching pain and the taste of living a life worse than death filled Tan Xiu with despair. He had endured countless pains in the past, and his mind had become extremely tough. But at this time, he still had the desire to die immediately. The heavenly art of cosmic genesis. The humanoid old man suddenly let out a soft cry of surprise. His blurry face also became clear. It was a lean face with a complicated mixture of handsomeness and age. It made one's teeth ache. Swoosh, Tan Xiu was lifted and hung in the air above the Yin-Yang Lake. Descendant, what is thy relationship with ancestor Mo Luo? Tan Xiu gasped for breath. The feeling of surviving a disaster filled his heart with happiness. But at this time, his entire fate was controlled by the old man. He did not dare not answer, I don't know who ancestor Mo Luo is. The old man pondered for a moment and revealed a trace of regret. He shook his head and sighed, pity, what a pity. Ancestor Mo Luo is the creator of the demon realm, the ancestor of all demons, a very talented little guy. But it is a pity that thy cultivation is too shallow. Thy comprehension of the heavenly art of cosmic genesis is simply pitiful. Never mind. At the moment when I am about to disappear for eternity, we meet again. I will give thee a good fortune. Multicolored light curled up and wrapped around Tan Xiu's body like ribbons. The old man's figure became blurry again. Thousands of strands of light spread from his body to Tan Xiu and drilled into Tan Xiu's body. At this time, from Tan Xiu's body, bursts of teeth-aching cracking sounds erupted. And his cultivation realm, like pulling a seedling to help it grow, was constantly breaking through. Meridian transformation, marrow transformation, viscera transformation, all the way to the peak of viscera transformation before stopping. Because his foundation was too poor. Even if he pulled a seedling to help it grow, if he wanted to improve further, his body would not be able to bear it. Now, if someone could see through Tan Xiu's body, the Jing of Changes would see that Tan Xiu's body was like a sparkling and translucent crystal. The strength of his entire body had increased by more than 100 times. Buzz, the old man waved his arms, and the Yin-Yang Divinity Lake below was directly sucked up by him. After slapping out several seals, the Yin-Yang Divinity Lake rapidly shrunk, and finally turned into a cluster of light the size of a firefly. He slapped it into Tan Xiu's body. Descendant, my inheritance is in the Yin-Yang Divinity Lake. I will also give the Yin-Yang Divinity Lake to thee. Thy only wish is to walk my path of freedom. As his voice faded, the humanoid old man turned into specks of light and gradually disappeared between heaven and earth. After a long time, only then did Tan Xiu sober up from that mysterious feeling. But he still deeply remembered the humanoid old man's words before he dissipated, especially those words, "Walk on my free and unfettered path." Tan Xiu's body had fallen to the bottom of the yin-yang divinity lake, and he remained in a half-kneeling position for a long time. Finally, when Tan Xiu slowly raised his head and looked up at the blue sky, he burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, the great opportunity exceeded the sum of all the opportunities that Tan Xiu had gained in the immortal world in the past 10,000 years. He clearly saw the firefly-sized light in his dantian, and when he probed it with his divine sense, he could see the yin-yang divinity lake in the space inside. His body was constantly nourished and strengthened by the yin and yang liquid of the yin-yang divinity lake, as well as the glow that enveloped it. After half a day, his cultivation had already shown signs of a breakthrough. Suddenly, Tan Xiu's laughter came to an abrupt stop, and his smile directly froze on his face. Because the black hole in his dantian suddenly emitted a crazy pulling force, directly swallowing the yin-yang divinity lake. Fuck. After a long time, Tan Xiu burst out with an angry roar. Sorry, I've been stuck in a bottleneck recently, and my writing has been very difficult. I originally wanted to update it at 7:00 this morning, but I was very dissatisfied with it and deleted more than 16,000 words. It was a draft that was rushed out at the last minute, so the update was a little late. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.